I inhaled deeply. Or rather, I did something that felt like inhaling. There was no air around me, and I no longer had a physical body. Instead, I possessed what appeared to be a transparent, ethereal form. At the moment, I was some kind of soul floating within an infinite black expanse. Then again, calling it a place was probably inaccurate. There was no true space here. I existed inside a void where matter should not have been able to survive. Scientifically speaking, anything thrown into this emptiness would probably be reduced to nothing. This place was like a cosmic garbage dump. Perhaps the only reason I could remain here was because I was a soul. After enough time passed, even the universe would eventually die, and everything would return to its original state. The void. Nothingness. Of course, these were only theories I had developed during my time here. I had been trapped in this emptiness for an incredibly long time. Perhaps hundreds of years had already passed. Strangely, my memories remained perfectly clear. I had not forgotten a single detail of my previous life. Maybe this was my personal hell. An eternity of loneliness. After everything I had done, perhaps I deserved it. At least I still had spiritual clothes covering my body. Welcome to the game. I stared silently at the blue window floating in front of me. It had appeared only a few seconds ago. Its arrival made me wonder whether my punishment had entered a new stage or had finally reached its end. My old name was no longer important. I had not used it in a very long time. Before my death, I had been an 18-year-old young man. My appearance was slightly above average, but my family was poor. We constantly struggled to avoid losing our home. My luck had never been particularly good either. Several months before my death, my 12-year-old sister was killed by a famous politician. It had supposedly been an accident. Of course, I still blamed him. He had been extremely drunk that night and was driving at 160 miles per hour on a road with a speed limit of only 60. I could still remember the night we learned about my sister's death. Our family had been enjoying dinner together while waiting for her to return from a nearby grocery store. We became worried when she was late, but none of us imagined that something terrible had happened. Then we received the news. It was one of the worst nights of my life. The grief, rage, and hatred I felt were impossible to describe. What made it worse was that the politician walked away without punishment. He was not imprisoned for more than 24 hours. It was completely unfair. I still remembered the mocking expression on his face when he looked into my eyes. He stared at me as though he knew I could do nothing to him. I hated the fact that he was right. At least, he was right that day. Several months passed, and I tried to move forward. At school, I met a beautiful and popular girl. She had green eyes, blonde hair, and an attractive face. We soon became friends. Eventually, I gathered enough courage to ask her on a date. She rejected me harshly. A few days later, I discovered that she had started dating the school's biggest jerk. I did not hold a grudge against her for rejecting me, but she soon removed me from her life entirely, as though we had never been friends. Even then, I tried not to hate her. Around the same time, 4 school bullies began beating me regularly. At first, I had no idea why they were targeting me. Whenever I asked, they refused to explain. As one disaster followed another, I slowly became more depressed. Eventually, I learned that the boy dating my former friend had ordered his friends to attack me. She knew what they were doing, yet she never tried to stop them. A cruel word immediately entered my mind. Traitor. By then, I had begun to hate many kinds of people. People who betrayed others. People who killed children. People who hurt the weak simply because they could. My life had become unbearable. Suicide started to seem like an appealing escape, but I did not want to become just another forgotten suicide victim. Then I suffered a complete mental breakdown. I decided I was finished being a nice person. You can only beat a dog so many times before it finally bites back. That evening, I lured the 4 bullies into an abandoned alley. I carried a long kitchen knife with me. They tried to fight back, making the task more difficult, but I eventually killed all 4 of them. I had taken human lives. 4 young men were dead because of me. Afterward, I found their leader alone in the school's changing room. He had stayed behind because he was late for training. I beat him to death with a baseball bat. My former friend was waiting for him outside the school gates. When he failed to appear, she entered the building to search for him. I had never wanted to hurt her. However, she had knowingly allowed others to torment me. When she found me, I stabbed her once and left her bleeding on the cold floor. They had all been young people around my age. Each of them could have lived a long and happy life. But there was an old saying, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They had chosen to attack me first. They should not have expected me to accept every blow with a smile. Since the law refused to give me justice, I decided to create my own. I was prepared to end my life, but there was still one final thing I needed to do. One last destination. I quickly traveled to the home of the politician who had killed my sister. The only people inside were his wife and his 20-year-old daughter. I knocked his daughter unconscious before killing his wife. I had already drowned myself in blood. There was no longer any reason to fear swimming deeper. I locked his unconscious daughter inside a closet and waited quietly for my enemy to return. Part of me feared that the police would arrive first. By then, they had probably discovered the other bodies. Fortunately, several hours later, the politician entered the house alone. The police were not with him. A smile appeared on my face. I silently moved behind him and stabbed him dozens of times. Even after he stopped moving, I continued attacking him. At some point, tears began streaming from my eyes. I was a psychopath, a criminal, a murderer. But had I always been that way? No. They had created me. They had carefully shaped me into a monster while expecting me to remain their obedient punching bag. Perhaps my patience had convinced them that I was afraid. In the end, I stabbed myself and allowed my body to die slowly and quietly. That was how my story ended. I did not possess enough heroic qualities to forgive them. I was a vengeful person. Returning my attention to the present, I touched the window floating before me. Another window immediately appeared. Hello, player. You are about to begin a great journey. There are no restrictions, so simply enjoy yourself. However, before you begin, there are still several things you must do. I raised an eyebrow and waited. Several seconds passed, but nothing else happened. I touched the notification again. First, you must choose your destination. Earth, the place where souls are born for the first time. It is incredibly boring, and nobody wants to return there. Naruto, a world dominated by chakra and mystical arts. It is a wonderful place if you want to become a brainwashed child soldier. Dragon Ball, physics? Is that something you can eat? Bleach, are you human? Excellent. That means your entire life is pointless. Choose this world if you want to hear a certain girl constantly screaming a certain boy's name. Also, do not forget that everyone supposedly moves faster than light, yet they still struggle to run across a few meters. One Piece, if you do not want to be gay, do not choose this world. Half of the population is gay. Minecraft, you already know the usual routine. Save a village, build a castle, and kill a giant black dragon. Just another boring day. Terraria, you are the hero. Sorry, that was incorrect. You are the god's doll. Dark Souls, seriously? The ending is terrible. Fate, occasionally, several people from different eras are summoned to fight for approximately 7 magi. Each magus receives command seals that can sometimes control their servants. The winner may receive a wish from a rather limited holy grail. DXD, congratulations. If you choose this world, please kill Issei. I stared at the long list. Whoever had written these descriptions was clearly ridiculous. They had deliberately mocked every world. Even so, most of the descriptions were strangely accurate. After considering my options, I selected Fate. It had been my favorite series, and I knew a great deal about its confusing timelines. Excellent. Second, you must create your new avatar. The notification disappeared. Another window appeared, asking me to design 3 versions of myself: childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. I gave myself black hair, dark green eyes, and a handsome face. Since I was being reincarnated, I had no desire to look like an average neighbor named Joe. What will your new social background be? Half-blood, you are a hybrid carrying the blood of a phantasmal species. You will possess the powers and abilities of one species, including the possibility of a transcendental species, as well as the natural instincts needed to use them. However, your non-human half will be selected randomly. Zero distortion. Despite not being an incarnation and not possessing a distorted mentality, you have a reality marble. You will receive a random reality marble and will not suffer from an abnormal perception of reality. Member of the aristocracy, you belong to a renowned family within the Mages Association. You will receive a formal and advanced education in magecraft, along with a significant financial income. True descendant, you are an anomaly whose bloodline has survived since the Age of Gods. You are related to one of the great heroes of legend and will automatically receive 2 noble phantasms. You may materialize or dematerialize them at will, and they will not lose their mystery through degradation. Thief of Jewels, you are a distant relative of the Tosaka family. One of your ancestors was once a member of that Magus family, but they defected and stole several magical tools and secret techniques. You will possess high-level magic circuits in both quality and quantity and will be capable of mastering the Tosaka family's techniques with relative ease. Cannibalistic magic circuits. Normally, when a magus attempts to take another magus's magic circuits, the stolen circuits resist and reject the process. That does not happen with you. You possess the strange and terrifying ability to steal the magic circuits of any magus without difficulty. You can even steal magic crests. New generation, you are the first person in your family to display magical potential. You will receive low-level magic circuits and a small chance of obtaining plot armor. I carefully examined every option. Each background was tempting in its own way. Eventually, I selected member of the aristocracy. Half-blood had never been a serious option. Most hybrids in the series were either psychopaths, idiots, or both. Makahisa was a perfect example, considering the horrible things he had repeatedly attempted to do to a girl younger than his own daughter. Zero distortion was a decent option, but the reality marble I received would be completely random. Besides, even without selecting it, I might still be able to obtain a reality marble later. True descendant also sounded powerful, but I did not want to become the descendant of someone like Angra Mainyu. It was not that I hated him, but his noble phantasm was terrible. There was also a chance that I could become a descendant of Gilgamesh. He would probably not be pleased if I inherited the Gate of Babylon. In fact, he might kill me because of it. New generation was clearly not worth choosing. I had no desire to possess weak magical potential. Thief of Jewels was not appealing either. I did not want everyone calling me a thief merely because one of my ancestors had stolen from the Tosaka family. I also disliked the Tosaka family's jewel magecraft. It was certainly powerful, but I had no interest in spending years storing magical energy inside a gemstone just to create a small explosion. You may choose 2 starting traits. Mental interference, gain basic abilities in telepathy and telekinesis. Third eye. Possessing a third eye in the center of your forehead grants limited precognition and greatly enhanced perception. Eidetic memory. Gain perfect recall of all past memories, immunity to illnesses such as Alzheimer's disease, and resistance to low-level hypnosis. The fourth wall. Gain immunity to mental interference, mind reading, and analytical abilities. I considered the available choices. In the end, I selected the fourth wall and eidetic memory. The other options were either flawed, like the third eye, or less useful, like mental interference. My choices were clearly the most reasonable. Before beginning your journey, what is your name? 3 empty boxes appeared. First name, middle name, last name. I could have entered the name from my previous life. However, what would have been the point? After thinking for a moment, I smiled and entered my new name, Victor Von Doom. I held the knife firmly in my hand and swung it at incredible speed, tracing several lines across the wolf standing before me. Only I could see those lines. The lines of death. In this life, my name is Victor Von Doom, heir to the noble Von Doom family. I am expected to bring pride and glory to our name, something my father, Warner Von Doom, and my mother, Cynthia Von Doom, constantly remind me of. Sometimes, it feels as though they are trying to brainwash me by repeating it so often. Fortunately, I possess an eidetic memory, so there is no need for them to keep saying it. At the moment, I had just completed the survival test given to me by my father. I was only 9 years old, and although I knew very little about magecraft, that old man had sent—
Hey everyone, welcome to our channel, and thank you for your support. If there's a favorite novel on the channel and you want the next part, you're just one step away. Become a Patreon member and I can make it depending on your tier. Thank you for your attention.
Sentenced me to spend an entire month alone in the wilderness. He claimed it was a necessary test to determine whether I was worthy of becoming the family heir. Apparently, he planned to pass the family's magic crest down to me in about a year. However, I was born on January 25, 1984. That meant that, if this was the main fate universe, I had been born 10 years before the Fourth Holy Grail War. That was not necessarily a bad thing. I possessed the mystic eyes of death perception. This was not particularly strange. Ryugai Shiki obtained hers after falling into a coma, while Shiki Tono awakened his after experiencing death firsthand. For me, possessing them felt natural because I had already been dead for a very long time. I also possessed a noble phantasm, Kaziklai Bey, the weapon of Vlad III. Perhaps I had inherited it because I was one of his descendants. Even I was surprised to possess it because I had not chosen to become his true descendant. My family background was also strangely similar to that of Victor Von Doom from Marvel, except for the cosmic energy and Mephisto. No one in my family had sold their soul to the devil, and we did not live in America or Japan. We lived in Germany. The game system I possessed only had a small number of functions, status, inventory, and missions. I also had the observation skill, but it could only be used on tools and objects. It could not be used on living creatures such as humans or animals. Not that I was complaining. My current status was: name, Victor Von Doom. Level, 6. Title, none. Strength, 1.3. Body, 1.3. Agility, 1.5. Mind, 1.1. Spirit, 1.4. Stat points, 12. Number of magic circuits, 20. Circuit quality, B. Capacity, 20 times 30 equals 600. Composition, dynamic. Origin, determination. Elements, fire, ether, time, space. Trait, none. Skills, observation, magecraft C, rapid reflexes D, mystic eyes of death perception A. Perks, fourth wall, eidetic memory. Noble phantasm, Kaziklai Bey. For a 9-year-old child, I was already extremely strong. I possessed only an average number of magic circuits, 20 in total, but their quality was second class. This gave me nearly 600 units of internal magical energy, which was far greater than what many other magi possessed. After receiving my family's magic crest, I would gain many additional magic circuits. I also possessed 4 elemental affinities, something incredibly rare. There were only 2 ways to increase my level. The first was by killing animals such as wolves. The second was by completing certain missions. Only a few weeks ago, I had been stuck at level 1. However, when my father abandoned me in this snowy forest, I received a mission to survive his test without dying. I also discovered that killing animals granted me experience. At one point, I killed a bear to secure enough food to last for a long time. The taste of bear meat was strange. At first, it seemed quite good, but the flavor quickly became unpleasant. Each time I gained a level, I received only 2 stat points. I did not possess the gamer's mind or the gamer's body. Once again, I was not complaining. It was not as though I truly needed them. Strength controlled my muscle density and the amount of damage I could inflict. Body controlled my durability, bone density, stamina, and even my body's passive regeneration. Agility controlled my flexibility, movement speed, and reaction time. Mind controlled my overall intelligence, memory, comprehension, and the speed at which my thoughts were processed. Spirit was more mysterious, but I believed it controlled my magical talent. My origin was determination. It was slightly strange and did not appear to provide any obvious special abilities. However, it prevented me from falling into despair. Whenever I wanted to give up, something inside me refused to allow it. Whenever I approached my limits, an unseen force pushed me forward and compelled me to surpass them. It also seemed to allow me to slightly ignore differences in strength between levels. In addition, I could make others feel my determination, producing a faint sense of fear within them. Unfortunately, my origin did not grant me the ability to save and reload. The remaining days of my father's test passed quickly and peacefully. On the final day, my uncle, my father's younger brother, came to retrieve me on horseback. Like most aristocratic Magus families, my family believed that traditional methods were superior to modern technology. They were not completely wrong, but they were not entirely right either. Both approaches had their own advantages. After returning home, I arrived at the enormous mansion built beside a mountain in another forest. I immediately delivered a brief report to my father. He showed no signs of satisfaction or disappointment. Not that I cared. I was already pleased because the experience gained from completing the mission had immediately raised me to level 9. I went to my own workshop. It was given to me after I started learning the craft of magic a few years ago. It was not strange because all magus have to own their own workshop. My workshop contains a table and several chairs, a magic chemical laboratory, what appears to be a morgue with many medical tools, and there is room left for the owner to be able to do anything he wants. It was not strange that these things existed here because my family, the Von Doom's family, specializes in chemistry and conjuring spirits. I am still just a child, so it is clear that I did not begin to learn such things. Therefore, I did not start to kidnap the villagers and turn them into zombies or capture their souls to make a furious soul enslaved by me. But after reading things about magic chemistry, like how to make advanced toxins, I learned the magic of advanced healing. I am a genius. I will not deny it, but I will not start killing innocent people at 9 age. I made space in my workshop and I drew a summons on the ground. It is difficult to obtain information about the Holy Grail War, so I could not see any summons recently. Fortunately, I was visiting the fandom very much in my previous life, and with the help of my perfect recall of memories, of course, I can remember the summons. According to my calculations, it was only a few weeks before Ryanowski summons Jill Dr. Reyes. For now, maybe all the other servants were called in regardless of caster. I was 10 years old. I reached it several months ago. Unfortunately, my cruel family does not celebrate birthdays, or any religious festivals, whether Jewish, Christian, or Islamic. What a shame, because my family is a group of necromancers. Initially, I was not planning to participate in the war, but I changed my mind because I am in desperate need of getting stronger, and participating in the war is a shortcut to this. I also need to make sure that everything is going well. I do not want humanity to perish right now. Some people may think that my fear is unnecessary because I have never been involved in the story, but it seems that my existence is only different from the past. Von Doom's noble bloodline had been around for nearly 180 years. Now I am the 5th generation of the family, returning to the family root, Von Doom the Eye, who appears to have been the son of a common magus who participated in the building of the Holy Grail. Of course, the father of our family's founder, my great-grandfather, died in the First Holy Grail War, and after several decades his youngest son changed his last name to Von Doom after joining the Mage Association. Of course, I may only have a paranoia, but this is justified, too. Maybe my presence in this world caused a change in the past of the timeline, which caused my new birth here. It was amazing and terrifying at the same time, that the introduction of one number in the equation is a major cause of the result change. This looks like a very complex mathematical equation. This was the butterfly effect. As a small change in the past would cause a major change in the future, some may think that the butterfly effect is nonsense, but in reality it is that destroying Ultron in the past caused the future to turn into a cold war between Midgard and the 10th realm. Let silver and steel be the essence. Let stone and the Archduke of Contracts be the foundation. Let the magic be our bond. Let rise a wall against the wind that shall fall. Let the 4 cardinal gates close. Let the 3-forked road from the crown reaching unto the kingdom rotate. Let it be declared now, you shall serve under me, and my fate shall be with your destiny. Submit to the beckoning of the Holy Grail. Answer, if you would submit to this will and this truth. An oath shall be sworn here. I shall attain all virtues of all of heaven. I shall have dominion over all evils of all of hell. I have said the recall words that I remember, with a slight change. A slight pain began rubbing in the back of my left hand, while the summons began to light up brightly. In less than 1 second my first and new servant was formed. She was like a fairy tale witch, wearing a masked purple robe, enough to hide half of her upper face, but I can still see her blue-purple hair and the ends of her non-human ears. I immediately recognized her, the Witch of Betrayal, Medea, descendant of the gods who did not have divinity as a skill. I stared at her for several seconds, waiting for her to take off her cloak or talk, and she looked at me from above, because she was a lot taller than me. Hey, kid, are you my master? I noticed that she was trying to say it in a gentle voice, but the fact that she wears the cloak of an wicked witch makes this a little difficult, and I noticed disappointment in her voice. Maybe she thinks I'm a not worthy master because I am a child. No, I told her while I looked at her in the eyes. Luke, I'm your father. She looked at me momentarily, noticing that she had opened her mouth several times to speak and closed it. What was that? She said to me as she seemed confused. Luke's last fight against Darth Vader. Star Wars, you don't know him? I thought the Grail gave the servants information about the era in which they were summoned. No, Star Wars. Is this some kind of current war? She asked me while she knelt to reach my level. It was not. I told her, while I did not hide the disappointment in my voice. How could she not know it? By judging your robe, I suppose you are a caster. I quietly asked her while I kept the fact that I knew her hidden. In my previous life I have read several fan fiction as Medea is the main interest for love, and it is shown as gentle and loving. Perhaps she really is if she really loves you, but the fact that her aligning is a neutral evil means that she will kill me immediately if I annoyed her really. She is also mentally psychopath, which means she will often ignore any guilt she might feel afterward. Oh, she stood straight again. I'm Castor, and my real name is Medea, witch of betrayal. I hope you don't mind it. Absolutely. I told her while I used my ability as a master to see her states. True name, Medea. Class, Castor. Parameter. Strength, E. Endurance, D. Agility, C. Mana, A+. Luck, B. NP, C. Class skills. Item construction, A. Territory creation, A. Personal skills. High-speed divine words, A. Golden fleece, X. Noble phantasms. Rule breaker, C. Argon coin, N/A. After speaking a little with Medea in my workshop, she went back to the shape of spirit after we heard the slight knocking sound in the door. I immediately covered the summoning circle with a cloth cover and went to see the visitor. Mostly, none of my family disturbs others when they are in their workshop. For Magus, the workshop is a very important thing, and for maids, they don't bother bothering any of us because they know that we barely have any grain of humanity, and we might turn them into lab rats. Of course, this does not apply to me. I will not just kill or torture someone because he started making some noise. Maybe I will do so if I really hate someone, or because that will return to me with a great return. But in normal situations I tend to earn the loyalty of others and their friendship via the principle of mutual gain. Of course I know that some people will want to become friends without acquiring anything, but this kind of people is very rare. However, I slowly went to the door and opened it, only to discover that my 8-year-old brother was standing behind the door and it seemed he was waiting for me. My brother was a little different from me. I had green eyes, black hair, and healthy white skin similar to my biological father, while my brother, Siles, had black hair, brown eyes, and tanned skin. He clearly inherited our mother's genes. I fear that he might be feminized in the future, but I think these are just fears. Do you want something, Siles? I told him while I maintained a neutral attitude. I did not show any hostility or friendliness, not that I do not like my brother, but he is actually a wolf in sheep's clothes. By my long observation of him, I saw that he is smarter than he looks and is more subtle than any child ordinary, and he did not have weak talents. He had about 27 magic circuit and each one accommodates about 18 units of magical energy, and I think he is jealous a little from me because I am the person who will receive the magic crest after a few months and not him. He looked at me while trying to hide the cunning in him or his desire to laugh sarcastically, but he did not know that I had already discovered his acting. I was passing through this hallway and I heard you by mistake talking to someone, but now it seems that your room is empty. Are you okay, brother? Great. I'm fine. You have to go back to your room. This is night already. You know that the mother and father do not like when you wander in the palace at night, and they don't like when you came here in the basement, I said to him seriously while I sighed internally. Really? Why for heaven I will have a demonic brother like him. He must have been spying on me. Hope he didn't hear anything that Castor said. Well, brother, you are so boring, he said as he sighed with disappointment and left. Siles, called him and I waited until he turned towards me and said I had what seemed to be a hidden threat. Please, stay out of trouble. He looked at me for a moment. Maybe he thinks I am really worried about him. Maybe I am because his current behavior will only earn him enemies, and no one likes getting enemies. In the end he left silently and left me in the dark hallway of the palace of the vast palace. On the other hand I wiped the summoning circle from the floor of my workshop before closing it and heading to my room, where I threw myself on the comfortable bed and relaxed a little. It is really comfortable to be the heir of a noble family. The only downside is that you must train hard in order to meet the expectations of your family towards you. I opened my state. Name, Victor Von Doom. Level, 9. Title, None. Strength, 1.5. Body, 1.6. Agility, 1.8. Mind, 1.1. Spirit, 1.4. Statistical points, 18. Number of circuits, 20. Circuit quality, B. Capacity, 20x30 equals 600. Composition, dynamic. Origin, determination. Elements, fire, ether, time, space. Treat, none. Skills, observation, magecraft C, rapid reflexes D+, mystic eyes of death perception A, psychology B, marksmanship D. Perks, fourth wall, eidetic memory. NF, Kaziki Bay. Compared to a few months ago, I have made some progress. Agility is still the most dominant because I was focusing on training my mystic eyes, and despite this, judging that 1.0 is the average statistic of a healthy adult male, my current physical strength is relatively high for a child in 10 years of age, according to the mind, by the judgment that the average human being has 110 in the IQ. I am about 120, but the IQ test that I conducted several months ago says that my intelligence is close to 130, perhaps because of my eidetic memory. I don't know the exact effects of spirit statistic. The Holy Grail War was a serious thing, not a game. With my current strength I may not be considered the weakest master. In fact I may only be weaker than Kiritsugo and Kaire because they do not rely on ordinary magecraft. They rely mainly on advanced martial arts skills or technological weapons of modern era. And for caster, it may be ranked only 5. The 2 weaker ones will be Assassin and Lancer. After all, Saber, Rider, Berserker and Archer are stronger than them. After thinking a little, I added 4 points in both strength, body, and agility, and I added only 2 points in the mind, and I added the remaining 4 points in spirit. Name, Victor Von Doom. Level, 9. Title, None. Strength, 5.5. Body, 5.6. Agility, 5.8. Mind, 3.1. Spirit, 5.4. Statistical points, 0. Number of circuits, 20. Circuit quality, B+. Capacity, 20x50 equals 1000. Composition, dynamic. Origin, determination. Elements, fire, ether, time, space. Feature, none. Skills, observation, magecraft C, rapid reflexes D+, mystic eyes of death perception A, psychology B, marksmanship D. Perks, fourth wall, eidetic memory. NF, Kaziki Bay. Waver Velvet was hiding behind a bush while he was watching the garage of the shop at close range. Suddenly, punches appeared in the garage door with a strong sound. After several seconds the door was controlled and a shape appeared on the other side of the door. A giant man with a length of more than 2 meters with big muscles and 9 hairs. The most unusual thing was that he was wearing an ancient Greek leather shield and a thick red cloak over his shoulders. Waver stared in this person with confusion for a moment before he showed signs of anger on his face. He immediately went out of his hiding place and headed towards the huge person. Rider. Baka? What were you thinking about breaking the door like this? Waver said with irritation, and why are you not in a spiritual form just as you entered? Because in that case I wouldn't be able to hold this, Rider said as he waved a bunch of books in his right hand. Don't panic like this, you make me look like a thief. If you are not a thief, what would you be? While wavering, Waver said of the fact that his servant is a giant stupid. Rider looked at Waver for a few moments silently, apparently thinking about an excuse something else altogether. The thief fleeing cheese under the cover of night he then extended his left hand to the side as for the conqueror king. He sings victorious when he leaves with his spoils. It's enough. While his annoyance reached Waver and took the books out of Rider's hand, Waver said, now go, leave now. Well, you can take booty. Rider said with a smile of joy on his face before he disappeared. Seeing this, Waver scratched his hair and shouted to the sky, why is this happening to me? Well, I'm not going to lose today, Iliasville von Einsburn said happily as she walked in front of her father, Kiritsugu Emiya. Kiritsugu smiled softly while his daughter followed the furrow. Suddenly he stopped and said, I found one. Really? Where? Sure I didn't miss anyone, Ilya said surprisingly, and she went beside Kiritsugu who pointed to a tall tree. There, that's the bud of the first nut for the day. Kiritsugu laughed, I won a point. Ilya grabbed her hands and jumped to run away. I'm not going to lose. Seeing this, Kiritsugu smiled gently again and followed his daughter. There was a fiery red-haired young man writing blood on the ground. Now I write it 5 times. Hey, was it smashed 5 times? The young man, Urayu Enosuk, pondered for a moment and looked at the book in his hand, but he soon turned about his look at the child bound in the corner of the room. Ryu Enosuk smiled and was about to say something but a voice from the corner of the other room interrupted him. You sure we're causing a lot of mess, Ryu Enosuk? Ryu Enosuk looked behind the person who spoke, and saw what appeared to be a foreign child with black hair, perhaps of European origin, judging his features and his nan. Who are you? Ryu Enosuk said while he did not seem to be really afraid. In fact, there was an amusing tone in his voice. The child smiled in a strange way. Come on, you already know who I am. Ryu Enosuk thought for a moment, and soon he reached a revelation of perception. He looked at the child with wide eyes. Are you Satan Dano? The child stood up and approached the mentally ill red-haired. The child smiled again and placed his left hand over Ryu Enosuk's right shoulder. Actually, the child started talking slowly, but Ryu Enosuk felt something that penetrated his chest and held his heart with a cold fist. He ignored the pain and looked down to see that the child's arm had penetrated both his lung and his chest cage, and he could only think how a child's hand can have this power. The child pulled Ryu Enosuk's heart out of his chest and threw it away. In the next few seconds Ryanowski couldn't say anything for some reason, and before his consciousness faded, he heard the boy's words, I am Doom, your Doom. I looked coldly at Ryu Enosuk's corpse, as he was the first human to kill him in this life, and as expected, apart from some slight fear and a little capricious feeling, I hardly feel guilty. After all, I know this person is rubbish, and he barely gave me a 1.000 EXP. I looked at my blood-stained hands and ignored the attempts of the bound child to scream and run away. I took a handkerchief out of my pocket and wiped the blood covering my hands. Then, I carried the grimoire of Ryu Enosuk's ancestors and inserted it into my inventory because it might be beneficial in the future. I and my caster, Medea, arrived at Fuyaki just a few hours ago. I didn't inform my family that I would participate in the Holy Grail War, but I left a message saying that I must do something personal. It is not as if they will take care of my absence for a week or so as long as they know that I am not in great danger. After all, they have thrown me in the woods and said that failure is death. Also, I possess a mystic code that has been inherited in the family, a ring made of mithril. As long as I wear this ring I can steal the power of life of others. By touching them I can treat myself. A beautiful weapon in fact, if it were not for the fact that the energy that the ring can absorb very slim. Fortunately, in the past days, when I summoned my best witch in the world, I told her to make me a similar but better ring. In the end, she made me a ring with similar effects. The only difference is that Medea ring is 10 times better than the family ring. Now, Medea and I invaded Ryuda Temple, and we used hypnosis to control students and teachers there. Ryuda Temple was located above one of ley lines, and it is also one of the 4 locations that can be used to summon the Greater Grail, and Medea can also absorb a quantity large world mana, so we decided to use it as our temporary base. As for me, I went to kill a certain rubbish. I don't really hate ordinary serial killers, but Ryunosuke was a child killer, and I hate a number of people, traitors, murderers of innocents, and very perverted. I looked around the room and found what seemed to be a clock. I carried it and went toward the bound child. Focus on the sound. He struggled a little, but he followed my instructions, and at that moment I did a simple hypnosis spell to make him forget. Description: 7 Magus summoned 7 servants to fight to the death in order to obtain the Holy Grail. Now all the masters have arrived to Fuyaki, and you are one of them. Objective: as a master in this war, you must kill at least one of the servants or masters. Reward: 10 million EXP. I have looked to notice the mission that appeared after I entered Ryuda Temple. This must mean that Kuretsugo has arrived here, which means that Gilgamesh will kill one of the assassins tonight, which means that Iris Veil and Saber will arrive tomorrow. By that time, hoping that no one may I discover my arrival here, or the fact that I am Mr. Custer, but I do not think they will suspect a 10-year-old, but I will not count on this. I must make backup plans. In any case, currently I have been heading towards Media, which took the building's storehouse as its workshop. I will never know why the Magus tend to build their workshops in warehouses and cellars or in dark places. Can they not only build a beautiful workshop overlooking the sea? I don't think so, because it is the Magus' duty to keep the supernatural out of the public eye. I knocked on the door and slipped a little, but the door didn't open. But Medea called me behind me. I'm not there, master. Medea, I just wanted to let you know that all the other masters have arrived at Fuyaki. I thought you might want to know this. I told her while I looked at her in the eyes in a neutral expression. It was my servant's Medea just 3 days ago. At this time I gave her a list of people who would be likely to participate in this war, but this time is not enough for me to treat her better than a Paul, but she seems to have a different opinion. Medea smiled towards me, and I noticed only now that she was wearing beautiful civilian clothes. She approached me and started to rub my soft, short hair. Thank you, master, but I have already discovered every Magus enter the city. I grabbed her hand that was rubbing my hair. For God's sake, I am 28 years old, I am an adult, and the fact that I am in the body of a child does not change the matter, and also, I am Victor Von Doom. In some parallel universes only my name sows terror in others. Stop it, Castor, I don't like it, I told her while I sighed, but I left her hand. You are so cute, she told me as she played with my hair again. I just realized that it was really hard to be a beautiful looking kid, but I did not prevent her this time. Her physical strength is higher than me because she is a servant. Also, she is Castor, and I'm Magus. As long as I have gained enough trust with her, she will be happy enough to teach me the magecraft of the Age of the Gods, and maybe some true magic, although the true magic of the Age of the Gods is less than the current true magic. I have a gift for you, she said to me as I took out an item from her jacket pocket, a heart-shaped necklace with a golden color, and she showed me a smile on her face. I thought you would be in danger if you encountered anyone who is strong, so I made this for you. You can use it to save your life from danger, and its shape is very cute, she said to me while you gave the necklace to me in my hand, which I used observation on. Trigos necklace. Type, Mystic Code. Effects. Mu Alpha Rho Delta Omicron Psi, a protective spell that borrows the concept of the Argos. Tiro Omicron Psi Alpha. When using this spell the owner is teleported to a random location at 10,000 meters. Users, Medea, Victor Von Doom. Oh, I looked at the necklace before looking at Castor. Thank you, Medea. Oh, don't worry about it. Just be very careful. You're still a child. You have a great future ahead just for you. Do you think so? I asked her while I lifted my eyebrow. Yes, you might get many wives and children. All you have to do is smile a little, she said to me while she made my lips smile. Damn, my servant likes to control me. Well, this is all the information we collected about the 5 masters completely. I hope this is useful for you, Kaire. A well-dressed man clad in a white, long-sleeve shirt with a crimson tuxedo over it that has black buttons, a blue ribbon, and brown shoes. He has elegant black hair, a goatee, and blue eyes, while talking to his student, Kaire Kodomine. The young priest carried the files from the hand of the red-haired Magus, and he looked among the files. The first file that belonged to the Magus assassin, Kuretsugo Emiya, who is also one of the candidates, master of the Insburn family. The difference between this file and the file that he had previously connected is that the file is longer and more accurate. Kuretsugo Emiya, in Kaire's opinion, he is an interesting person. The second person who passed through his file was a Waver Velvet, a third-class Magus who wanted to prove himself by winning the war, a stupid goal, especially as he risked his life. Kenneth L. Meloy Archibald, a talented rookie magus of the Archibald family, was taking part for the sake of reputation and glory, and judging by his abilities, he might pose a later challenge. Kariya Mata, the master of the Mata family. It was really stupid for Zukan Mata to choose his son who was never trained in his life to become a master. 2. It seems that Kariya Mata's goal is to save Tokyo Mi's daughter. Kairi passed the file quickly and looked at the fifth master, who was only discovered today, Victor Von Doom, 10 years, very little information about him, really expected for a child, but for some reason, whenever he thinks about the name, Victor Von Doom, he feels something like déjà vu. I spent the entire day while I was touring the city, yet everyone moved away afraid, said a handsome man in dark clothes while carrying one spear in each hand. This person is one of the servants in this war, Lancer, and his real name is Dire Muid. He was talking about two women in front of him, a blonde-haired girl in black clothes and a white-haired woman with warm clothes. You brave people who are only able to accept my invitation. Lancer closed his eyes before he opened it again. This courage, I suppose you are Saber? Yes, and you must be Lancer, said the blonde woman, Arteria Pendragon, or Saber. I regret not being able to say my name even though we will fight to the death, Lancer said with a smile. It is a defect of those miserable rules. Lancer waved his spear while a strange light appeared around Saber at the same time and clothes turned into a medieval knight's armor with a light wave of magical energy, after which she took a defensive position while carrying a hidden sword in her hand. Saber, be careful. I can only use the magic of healing to support you, said Irisveal, as she stepped back a little. There is nothing to offer other than that. Leave Lancer to me, said Saber, while not looking to confront her fake master. What worries me is the other masters not appearing. They seem to be planning something. Be careful, Irisveal. I want you to protect my back. I see. Saber, give me victory. Lancer and Saber stared at each other for a few moments, before Saber first spoke a charming spell. Lancer smiled silly and put his long spear over his shoulder. Sorry, it's a curse I was born with. I can't do anything about it. You can blame my birth or the fact that you gave birth as a woman. Of course you do not expect that this charming face will save you from my blade. This will spoil the pleasure. I see. The servant's ability to class the saber magic resistance was not a lie. This is good. However, killing a woman affected by my face will only spoil my reputation. I am glad that my first opponent has such ability. Oh, Saber smiled with a challenge. If you want a fair fight, I consider myself lucky to meet a proud soul like you. Well then, let's get started. The first person to move was a Saber who quickly advanced toward Lancer and waved her sword. Lancer banned the sword by using one of his spears, after which they exchanged both blows several times with their weapons and each hit was strong enough to destroy the ground beneath them and cause numerous cracks in the sidewalk, and one of the containers was destroyed after being hit by the Lancer spear, and as the battle continued, Saber began defending, hoping to find out the Lancer trump card and scratching his face. It is enough for you, Lancer. A deep voice echoed from a loud place, speaking to Lancer. Do not allow this battle to be prolonged. Saber is a difficult opponent. Eliminate her immediately. You can use your noble phantasm. For a second, Lancer looked at the direction from which the sound came before he looked again at Saber. He said before throwing his short spear on the ground, "No, master." After this, they both exchanged several strokes with their weapons, and Lancer completely discovered the shape and size of the Saber's sword, and Saber was injured in her ribs because she did not know the Lancer's shaft can cancel magic energy but was treated by Irisveal. Saber was confused initially, but she discovered the ability of the Lancer spear after seeing that her armor had not been hit. After that she relied on one attack in hopes of killing Lancer, but Lancer used his shorter spear to hit the wrist of Saber. It seems that it will not be an easy win, but I still respect you, Lancer said upon seeing that he was also injured. What nonsense do you utter? Baka. Lord Ilmloy Archibald heard from above while he treated Lancer's injury. Excuse me, master. Lancer smiled while waving his spear. Irisveal, heal me. I already did, Saber. You were supposed to be fully recovered, Irisveal suddenly said when she realized her healing magic was not working now. You did well to conclude that your armor is not useful in front of Gidrag, but the foolishness of giving up your armor. If you hadn't done that, you would have been able to repel my Gibo. Now I understood. A cursed blade causing wounds that would not be cured. I had to realize that beforehand. A red spear nullifies magic and a cursed yellow spear, and under the right eye is a mole that enchants women, the first among the Knights of Fiona. The dazzling face. I never thought I've had the honor to face you, said Saber, as she reached a certain realization. All thanks to the Holy Grail War, but the honor is mine. It is not possible for a heroic spirit that was summoned by the Holy Grail to not recognize that golden sword, facing the legendary King of Knights and wounding him, even if with one blow. I must be very strong, and now that we know the names we can honor each other as knights. Or are you disappointed that this happens after you lose? Find your arms? Do not speak nonsense. Saber reshaped her shield and took a different sword position. It would be humiliating to pour all your attention on an injury like this. Get ready, Saber, I will get you this time. Lancer said while he took an offensive position. Saber said as I took her warning. If I fail to hit you first, Lancer. At this moment, lightning struck the ground and Ryder appeared in a large vehicle while he shot his arms to his sides and shouted with pride, "Sheath your blades, the king is here. I am Iskandar, the king of the conquerors, and I am a rider in the Holy Grail War. Medea and I saw the gathering of the 5 servants, Lancer, Saber, Rider, Archer, and Berserker. It seemed that everything went similarly to the anime, and this is a good thing by the way, and we could monitor everything without approaching the battle thanks to the Medea crystal ball. Upon seeing that everyone dispersed, I decided it was time to start moving. I was not a naturally aggressive person, and I only resort to violence when it is necessary. Of course, violence is often necessary, but I prefer to use more diplomatic methods. Medea, can I ask you something? I told my butler when I stood up. Of course, master, what do you want to know? What is your proficiency in treating people who are destined to die sooner or later? I asked her while I looked at her in the eyes. Right now, she was wearing her witch clothes. It depends on his condition, the situation, and the reason for his injury. Why? Are you planning something? I will take Berserker, but I want you to treat his master, Kariya Mata, who is only getting weaker because of the crest worms inside him, I said to her quietly. Well, isn't he the enemy? We should kill him, not help him, she said to me while she showed little of her psychopathic personality. Oh, I raised my eyebrow while I began to explain to her, you know, Archer's master had 2 daughters, but he only wanted an education for one, so he simply sold his younger daughter Sakura to Mata, who uses her body as a farm for his crest worms, and now, Kariya Mata was Sakura's mother-childhood friend. So when he heard about it, he decided to save the girl her parents abandoned, but Zukin asked the Holy Grail in return, and because Kariya never trained in his childhood to use magecraft, he had to use crest worms to compensate for that. I spoke without stopping almost. Then he is stupid? He should not help someone else if he cannot help himself, she said to me convincingly. Oh my god, my servant is mentally ill. Castor, are you going to do it or not? I calmly told her and stopped calling her by name, because I don't want to argue with her. Well, master, if that's what you really want, she said to me while she was unhappy. I sighed internally while I realized that being on her good side was better than her bad side. It does not matter whether her past is tragic, she is still the witch of betrayal and she is definitely able to betray me, although I would be very angry if she did that because she was so kind to me after I summoned her. Medea, I don't want you to feel like I force you to do something, but I would be happy if you did what I wanted, okay? I smiled at her while I hugs her, like a little boy, given that I am literally a 10-year-old boy in her mid-20th year of age. Maybe this is the first time I hug her, or I am behaving softly with her. Hugging was not something for mine. Apart from her now, the only person I hugged is my twin sister Valeria. Yes, I have a twin sister. Our family is quite big. There is my mom and dad, my twin sister, my little brother, and 3 of my uncles are younger than my father, and there are many cousins, and my mother owns 2 of her brothers who also have sons and wives. We are a large family. Unfortunately, not everyone is very friendly. We are a family of magus after all. I doubt that someone in the family will try to kill me because I am the heir. After a few seconds of my embrace, it seems that her heart, made of magic energy, has finally felt warm, and she decided to embrace me too. I parted with it and restated the calm expression of my face. Okay, would you mind maybe transport us? Of course, master, just give me a second. She grabbed me tightly and closed her eyes before activating the spell of Tiro Omicron Psi Alpha, and the next moment we, Medea and me, appeared in a dark alley near the bridge, and the fact that there was a man in the middle of 30 with a white hair in pain a few meters away means my witch's magic has succeeded. Hello, Kariya Matu. I greeted him with a smile on my face. You? Kariya looked at me before focusing on Medea, who was wearing her midi robe. Just now I noticed that the other side of his face was full of swollen veins. You? A servant? What do you want from me? I looked at Medea, but I noticed that she decided to let me take the lead. Actually, I was hoping we could reach an agreement. Agreement? You, do you want to ally with me? Kariya looked at us with suspicion as she noticed that he looked like he was about to summon Berserker at any point. More or less, I said to him quietly, but Custer had already taken measures to flee. You will die anyway, Kariya Mato, because of the worms that drain your life or the excessive depletion of prana, but I am here to offer a solution that you may be happy with, Kariya Mato. What do you want? He said, running while I noticed that his nose was bleeding a little. This man was risking his life here only for a small probability of winning, and even if he did, Zukin might not return Sakura. This man was risking to save a girl her parents abandoned her. He might have some other goals such as earning the love of his childhood friend, but I will not deny that his goal was noble, and from what was shown in my previous life, he seems to be a really good person. After all, not all members of Mata family are scum as some people thought in my previous life. My servant can heal you from the worms. In return, you must give me the Berserker contract. You can do this. Kariya looked at us surprisingly, perhaps asking why we hadn't just cut his hand. I nodded. He looked at me for a few seconds before shaking his head. I refuse. I raised my eyebrow up. What? You want to die slowly? Or do you have additional demands? He looked at us for a few moments before answering Zukinmatu. I want you to kill Zukinmatu. I thought a little before I answered, okay, but not before the end of the Holy Grail War. Now, transfer your contract to me so that Castor can fix you. How can I be sure that you will not kill me instead? You wouldn't. If I wanted to kill you, you would have been already dead. Don't underestimate me just because I am a child. I may be more dangerous than what I look like. I said to him seriously, while the smile disappeared from my face. He looked at me with suspicion before he approached me. As long as you keep your promise to kill Zukin, my death does not matter. On the same day that the servants met at the port warehouse and I stole Berserker and sealed his orders, I now own 6 now. Kiritsugu blew up the building where Kenneth Archibald, his fiancé, and Lancer lived. That night Castor was in a painful process to Korea in order to remove all the worms and their eggs without killing Korea. When she finished she told me that it was very disgusting to take them out. In another way she only murmured, even though she was right because it took too long. Hours to fix Korea's body, I think I owe to her. As for Berserker, he does not seem interested in the fact that his master has changed, and this is not surprising because he lost his ability to think logically because of mad enhancement, but this only serves my purpose because I did not intend to keep Berserker unable to think beside me. If he could control his madness completely or speaking would have been different, but in its current state death would be a mercy to him because most servants do not like being in the Berserker class, but I may at least benefit from him. However, the next day, Kenneth Elmeloy Archibald attacked the Einsburn Palace with both his mystic code and Lancer. Saber repelled Lancer while Kiritsugu fought Kenneth who was using his volumen Hydrargyrum. Fortunately for Kiritsugu that Kenneth underestimated his capabilities. After Kenneth was hit by the original bullet, Lancer carried his master and escaped from the palace. However, that day also Kyrie killed Maya after Irisveal failed to stop him. It is good that almost everything has followed the original story. Now, it is time to make changes afterwards, and it is good that Medea can watch all places with her crystal ball. Also, Medea and I have made some progress. She is no longer calls me master and start calling me directly by my name Victor. And also, we planned that after the Holy Grail War ended we would go together to her hideout from when she was alive. There she had her magical books and spells where she promised me she would teach me what she could, and she even showed me how to find it. It was actually heartwarming for her to put all this confidence in me. However, today was the day that Saber, Ryder, and Archer were expected to have a drink, but before that happened, I decided that I should introduce myself, and that was why Berserker, who was in his spiritual form, went with me to the Einsburn Palace. Surprisingly, the front door was open, knowing that Saber and Irisveal were still here. Upon entering, I found that they were both in front of the gate, with Saber, Arturia Pendragon, standing in front of Irisveal with both her armor and her sword. It seemed that they noticed my presence before I entered. Upon seeing Saber, I noticed that Berserker in his spiritual form suddenly became aggressive, but I told him to calm down through the mental communication between us that the contract gives us. Hello. I greeted them as I bowed a little. I'm not here to cause any harm. I noticed that Saber relaxed a little when she saw that I was just a child but was silent, while Irisveal spoke. And who are you? Please, Mrs. Irisveal. Pretending to be stupid makes me feel offended. You must know my identity because you were collecting information about every magus arriving in this city, but since you will pretend to be stupid I will introduce myself. My name is Victor Von Doom and I am the master of Berserker in this war. Nice to meet you. Irisveal's face grinned a little. It seems that she did not expect a child to be such rudeness, but she and Saber soon realized something. I am Berserker's master. The servant is particularly aggressive against Saber. I assure you, I did not come here to fight. I was hoping that we could reach a somewhat temporary alliance. Do not you fear that we will kill you, Irisveal said while she thought she said something smart. I'm not naive, lady. The moment you try to harm me, Berserker will tear you apart, I said while Berserker appeared next to me. Then he started staring at Saber while he started shaking and seemed to be on the verge of attack. Berserker. I said I am sharp and strong tone, at least with my soft, childish voice. Berserker looked at me as he recognized me as his master, so he started to calm himself. It is good that Berserker was from the loyal type to his master, so he will not oppose my orders. By the way, why does he look aggressive whenever he sees me? Saber asked me as she lowered her sword. Perhaps this was a friendly glimpse of the night. Oh, it looks like he has a past with you. Just imagine him without black smoke, and imagine that his armor is blue with a sword similar to your sword in his hand, and you'll remember him, I told her with a smile. Saber thought for a moment before coming to the realization that this is impossible. How can he? It is quite possible. I suddenly told her. Sir Lancelot. Berserker interacted with his name and looked at Saber, and he would be agitated again, but I cried to calm him down. How could he be a berserker? I knew him before. I don't know, maybe because you humiliated him twice. I told her while I thought why wouldn't anyone use his brain at least once. First, you humiliate him as a man when you cuckolded him by sleeping with his lover, then you humiliate him as a knight when you refuse to punish him, and do not forget that you sentenced Guinevere to death, and you are an indirect reason that he was forced to slaughter his knight's friends, and there is a very long list. Hey, he officially hates you, and surprisingly, that's how Berserker is made. I told her with her serious childish tone, and I wondered internally why Lancelot had not taken revenge in his life, perhaps because of his pride as a knight, but I know that I would have gone into a killing wave if I were him. Saber looked at the ground, and seemed uninterested by the fact that she was being reprimanded by a child, who seemed to have decreased her morale and became sad. On the other hand, Irisveal was looking at her with anxiety. After that, I ignored the sadness of Arturia and told Lancelot to return to his spiritual body because his physical presence would only result in my need to supply energy to 2 servers that consumed a greater amount of other services, Caster and Berserker, although I shouldn't worry about this because Medea sucks mana out of the line at Ryudo Temple, so it has what is called 10,000 Master of Pure Magic Energy. But I don't want to waste my prana in Berserker, so it's better to stay in a spiritual form in order to make sure that his instincts do not overcome the rest of his attributes, because I am not sure of my ability to keep him under control, and also not, and if keeping him will do anything because he can hardly understand my orders, let alone make his peace with Arturia. We agreed on the terms of the alliance, which is that in exchange for killing Lancer in order to treat the wounds of Arturia, Saber will not fight us until the end of the war. After that we agreed to keep the fact that I am a secret after I discovered Saber the approach of another servant. Berserker also discovered him, but it was in his spiritual form, while Medea notified me through her mental contact because she was watching everything, and in case things went wrong she would transport me and Berserk out of danger. It is my backup plan. Some people may think that this is a cowardly act. After all, the real hero is the one who is fighting direct and legendary fighting and does not use any tricks. I am sorry, but I am not a hero, and I also see direct physical fighting where one is physically injured, a barbaric and primitive act. After all, why did humans invent weapons, witchcraft, assassination techniques, planning, and taking advantage of the opponent's weaknesses and strengths? Also, the smart and cunning person lives long, while the stupid person dies quickly. Everything went as in the story. Alexander came and invited Arturia to drink and speak as kings, and although Arturia was not in the best mood, she agreed because she did not want to insult the other side. However, I noticed that the king of the conquerors was he wonders about my identity. You might be surprised when I have a baby. All I did was smile. A little later, Gilgamesh joined the royal drinking group and mocked Alexander's bad wine and brought out a golden jar with 3 golden glasses. Alexander praised the quality of Gilgamesh wine. I ignored both Iris Veil and Waver Velvet and approached the group of kings. Technically I am the legal heir of Rome, because I am the seed of Vlad III. I am king, I think so. However, they then began discussing what their wishes were. Alexander said that he wanted to return to life as a human, while Arturia said she wanted to wish Camelot had not fallen, while Gilgamesh said he wanted to return the cup to its original place, stored it, and said that he had possessed it in the past. But this was stupid only because it was not made until 200 years ago, and even the first Holy Grail was made in the era of Christ. Gilgamesh is just such an arrogant conceit. In any case, Alexander blamed Arturia about her wish and entered into an argument. At that time I snuck close to them and tried to steal the Arturian cup to taste wine, but she slapped my hand and told me that I was too young to drink it and fairly argued. In any case I did again trying to steal the cup, but Gilgamesh sent a sword next to me to prevent me from touching the cup and said that this drink is only for kings. Does he not know that he almost killed a child now? And how dare he stop me? To grow, I have to grow. However, I realized that some people would make the same options regardless of the changes he brought about. Humiliating. Tokyo-me is sending his Ashasin army to try to surround us. However, this is not a big deal. Alexander said some motivating words such as saying that he would show his true strength and prove himself to his master who wanted to see his strength a while ago. However, at this moment I stepped in. I am sorry, but in the end you may not have to do all of this anyway. Oh, Alexander lifted his eyebrow while he looked at me. You're so short, little boy. I hardly noticed when you spoke. What do you want? Don't waste my time. If you're a fan, wait until I'm done to get my signature. I looked at him from the edge of my eyes. First, I am at the right height for someone of my age. Second, I am not a fan of people who think of their muscles. Third, I looked again at the assassin's army surrounding us and waved my hand while I activated the noble phantasm. So I intend to seize my Kazikli, Lord of Execution. Suddenly, multiple black and red spears began to emerge from the earth and penetrate the bodies of the assassins. None of them had a chance because the spears were very fast and multiple, each one being penetrated by approximately 3 or 4 spears. It was a massacre from one side. You killed the 100-face Hassan Isaba. You gained 1,100,000 EXP. Earlier after I killed Hassan of 100 faces I received many notices but I ignored them because of the situation, that there were 3 historical kings behind me, and fortunately, regardless of Alexander who asked me whether I am a heroic spirit as well, he did not press on anyone. Arturia remained silent, while Gilgamesh looked at me with disdain, and I'm sure both Tokyo-me and Carrie have a lot of things to think about. After all, a child with noble phantasm doesn't come out of nowhere. However, after he has left all from Gilgamesh and Alexander, I excused myself and went to investigate my side of the deal. I am not stupid. I know that this alliance is empty words. After all I did it with Irisville and she is not Saber's master, while Kiritsugu will not be interested in an alliance because he intends to kill all the participants. However, this was my plan. First, by introducing myself as the master of Berserker, everyone will assume that Castor's master is Kariya Mata, the person I was hiding in Ryudo, and of course they will try to kill him because Castor is one of the weakest servants, but he will not be able to find him because I am hiding him, but in the end, they will not know that I am the real master of Castor, and they will automatically assume that I have to provide a very high amount of prana to maintain Berserker, while in fact the 1,000 units of energy I have are more than enough to sustain Lancelot for a few dozen minutes of intense combat. Second, by forming an alliance with Irisveil as the master of Saber, it is as if I admit that I do not know that the real master of Saber is Kiritsugu, which will make him believe that he has an advantage against me, while the matter is actually the opposite, and he will think that he will be able to use me. And by helping Saber to regain her arm, it is as if I give him an advantage against everyone, because Saber will be able to use her noble phantasm, Excalibur, while at the same time a potential and dangerous enemy, Lancer, and his master, will be eliminated. Finally, by showing my noble phantasm, Kaze Clay Bay, this would put everyone in a paradox. Who am I? How did I get a noble phantasm? They will start doubting my identity after confirming the identity of the original owner of Kaziklai Bay, Vlad III, and they will assume several possibilities. The first is that I found the noble phantasm, but they would deny this immediately because Kaziklai Bay was more a skill than a tangible weapon, and they would assume that I am a heroic spirit of sorts, but they would deny this because they already know that I am Victor Von Doom, heir to the Von Doom family, and finally they'll stay in confusion because of this, Lager. So, really, regardless of my look and name, they really don't know anything about me, and maybe I will be a little mysterious because I have a strong weapon, but Kuritsugu still thinks he has an advantage against me and thinks they can benefit from me. In the end, the person who manipulated them is me, and everything they know about me is wrong, and the truth is that I did not tell any lie to them, I just did not say everything and let them use their imagination. My greatest strength was planning, cunning and manipulating my enemies, not fighting and using talk no jutsu and remembering my friends in order to increase my strength. I hardly have friends, and I am fighting for my interests and not for someone else. Well, my fight in this war is to ensure that Angra Mainyu does not turn into an invincible deity with an infinite amount of mana and immortality due to the third magic, but even saving the world is my interest. I, Victor Von Doom, threw everyone into an illusion of their own head. When Midia made sure that no one was watching me, she moved Anya to Ryudo Temple right in front of her, and I smiled at her when I saw her, my beautiful wicked witch. Welcome back, Victor, you were so cool there. She told me in an encouragement tone. I am not happy when she treats me like a child most of the time, but now I decided not to show this now. I went to her and hugged her, although I am barely longer than her waist. Oh, Victor, why is this? She asked me, but she hugged my back too. After a few seconds separated myself from it. Nothing, I said to her while I repeated my calm expression on my face. Anyway, I have to start. Did you discover where Kenneth and Lancer were? Yes, but before that, can I ask you something? She asked me. She was in a serious expression, but at the same time she seemed to think that what she was going to say was not important. Of course, Medea, anything you want. The spears in which you killed the assassins, it was noble phantasm, right? Why didn't you tell me you had it before? She said to me. From her expression, I assume she thinks that I do not trust her. I just didn't think this was important. It was not something that I possess. It is like a special skill that I can use because I am the descendant of Vlad III. I am sorry, Medea, I said to her calmly. It is not that I did not want to pretend that I am sad or guilty. I feel now with a little bit of guilt. It's just that I'm not used to showing how I feel openly. So only you did not think about saying it, and not that you decided to hide it from me. I nodded. Seeing this, she smiled and ran with her. Today I'm going to cook again. I smiled a little too. She was not very good at cooking, but I discovered from my time with her that she loves doing that, so I let her to cook for us, and although sometimes she burned food or left it raw, or forgot to put spices, except I ate it anyway and told her it was good. She went to the kitchen here at Ryudo Temple, while I sat in a chair watching her, and I decided to check my notifications. You have gained 1,100,000 EXP. You have reached level 10. You can choose a new perk. You have reached level 20. You can choose a new perk. You have reached level 29. Total statistical points, 40. I was a little shocked. Now I have a total of 40 stats points and I can choose 2 new perks. I know that this will be useful later. After all, so both the fourth wall and the eidetic memory were very beneficial to me so far. However, I decided I should not urgently allocating points now, and I checked my remaining notifications. You killed Hassan Isabah, Hassan of the 100 Faces. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Presence Concealment, A+. Expert of Many Specializations, A+. Librarian of Stored Knowledge, C. Noble Phantasm. Zabaniya, Delusional Illusion, B+. Now this was interesting, so by killing a servant, I can get some of his skills and equipment. Now I start weighing my options. Presence Concealment is an essential skill among members of the Hassan el-Saba sect, and at its current level A+, even servants cannot discover its owner. Expert of Many Specializations looks very good skill, especially at her current rank, and I of course would not mind gaining more knowledge that Hassan has, but I decided not to choose it because it is stupid to work on something new while I still have many things to work on. On the other hand, Librarian of Stored Knowledge is a much better option as it will take my eidetic memory to the next level. As for Noble Phantasm, it can be used to split one's personality. This thing is very dangerous and maybe I will never use it, but I will not mind getting it because it may prove useful in the future. So I picked Presence Concealment, A+, Librarian of Stored Knowledge, C, and Zabaniya, Delusional Illusion, B+. I was hiding on the roof of a building while I was using a binoculars to monitor both Kenneth, his fiancé, and Lancer. It seems that in this timeline Suliyui did not force Kenneth to hand her the seals of the orders. In fact, the Kenneth case was not so bad. In exchange, consider that his magic circuits were destroyed and he had to rely on a wheelchair, but Lancer was constantly monitoring him to ensure his safety. However, this is changing now. Berserker, kill him. I told my berserker, Lancelot, and in response to my orders, the black angry servant formed next to me, and after screaming in anger, he jumped from the building to the balcony where they were. Before he reached them, Lancer discovered him, carried his master and Suliyui and saved them from the building, and by a side jump he put them on the ground safely. Berserker exported the building to his body, which destroyed the wall. Fortunately, the building did not fall, however, Berserker immediately jumped behind Lancer. Only now, I realized that Lancer had landed near a public park full of civilians. If Berserker fought there, it would be a massacre. No, it would be genocide. Berserker, change the combat zone. I said to him through the channel of mental communication between us, but he did not respond to me. Damn, have his instincts overcome him now? With the power of the command seal, Berserker, Lancelot, must drag Lancer into a human-free zone without harming any civilians. I have 6 seals, using one of them will not be a big loss. I removed the glove from my left hand, then, the tattoo glowed in my hand before his sexture disappeared. Returning to the battlefield, I saw that Lancelot ignored Lancer's attempt to attack him and he, Berserker, kicked Lancer in the air before jumping toward him and brutally carried him to the remote forest area, thanks to Berserker's speed. They arrived less than a minute after Lancer kicked the antenna. Berserker, you, cough Lancer said when he stood up, but he immediately coughed a little blood from his mouth, but he held on to his spear very well. Berserker looked at him silently, seemed calm, but I knew now that he had completely succumbed to the skill of mad enhancement, and the evidence for this is that the black smoke around it became more intense. Roar Berserker suddenly exploded and started uprooting trees and throwing them towards Lancer. Lancer evaded the first tree and used his red spear to destroy the other tree, while he jumped to evade the third tree. It seemed that he decided that he could not evade the volley of trees, so he threw his yellow spear toward Berserker, perhaps because of skill or luck, but his spear widened a blind spot in his armor which caused a painful scream to get out of Berserker's mouth. Berserker was angry. He gave up throwing things towards Lancer and he jumped towards him and waved his fist. Lancer intercepted the Berserker's successive fists by his spear, but apparently he started getting tired after several dozen blows. Lancer summoned his yellow spear to fly towards him, and judging from the corner, so to reach him he likes to pass through Lancelot's chest, but fortunately it seems that even in this raging state he still has some rule of self-preservation and jumped to get away by the spear. Now, with both spears back, it is assumed that the dire Muid can fully show his strength, and it seems that Lancelot has regained some of his lost rationality and brought out his sacred sword, a Rondinct. If you are a knight after all, I thought you are an empty armor, Lancer said sarcastically, even though blood is flowing through his mouth. The two knights began to fight, with Lancelot using his sword in an aggressive and raging manner, putting Lancer on the defensive. However, their fight lasted only a few minutes before one of Lancer's spears flew out of his hand causing an opening in his defense. Seeing this, an expression of shock in the face of the dire Muid was printed. Berserker stabbed his sword in the chest of Lancer, passing through his heart. Lancer coughed some blood and tried to speak, but no words came out of his mouth. After several seconds he disappeared. Your servant Berserker killed the dire Muid of the love spot. I gained 1.800,000 EXP. I smiled upon seeing the notice, but I looked at the endoscope towards Berserker and saw that he was about to enter yet another tantrum. Berserker, calm down, it is over. I said to him, but he did not respond to me. In fact, he started screaming, Berserker, do not lose the rest of your mind now, do not let me use another command seal. I saw that he started to calm down after I used my harsh tone. Seeing this, I calmed down my feelings again, and decided that I don't need a Berserker anymore. Lancelot was a knight, and the fact that he was a berserker must be an insult to him. After all, for knights who represent justice and honesty, losing his minds is worse than death. By the power of stamping these orders, Lancelot, kill yourself. I saw that he did not respond for a moment, but he held a Rondinct and stabbed his chest. Unfortunately, there was no other way, or I was to let him fight Saber. You killed Lancelot. I gained 2,300,000 EXP. I have closed all notifications to focus in my reality. The other masters must have seen the battle, perhaps from a crystal ball or from a perspective like me. However, it is not as if I am satisfied with all this. Now, Lancer's master, Kenneth and his fiancée are still alive. Maybe I should kill them, but I decided not to do that. I do not like dirtying my hands except when I am forced to. It seems that the Kenneth circuits were not damaged so much in this timeline. He may be able to treat them if he goes to the Atlas Academy. Of course, this depends on whether the alchemists of Atlas are ready to help him. Atlas' relationship with the clock tower is not very good. Through mental contact between me and Medea, I told her to take me back to the house, which is basically the Ryuta temple. Well, we are the only ones we live in because Medea put everyone in a spell that governs the mind. She immediately transport me to the temple. Apparently she had been waiting for me to give her notice a while ago. Oh, that looks cute. Even though I'm not used to someone taking care of me. I found myself in front of her. Apparently she wanted to talk to me about something because she was staring at me silently. Hello, I told her while dictating my eyebrows, as I was a little bit wondering. Welcome back, Victor. Are you sure that Berserker's death was necessary? I mean, we could have easily kept it if you transferred the contract to me. I think we talked about this before, I said to her quietly. As long as we follow my plan, there will be no problem. She pouted a little, and you didn't tell me the plan completely, and every time I ask you about the possibility of our victory, you stay silent. I looked at her a little bit. Medea, I'll tell you a secret, but don't be angry, okay? She nodded her head. Seeing this, I began explaining to her, the Holy Grail cannot grant wishes, it did not do so before, the original goal of which is to revive the third magic, Heaven's Fields. Granting wishes was only a side effect. However, since the previous war in 1938 the Grail was contaminated by a servant, not an ordinary heroic spirit, also a vengeful spirit, so she can no longer grant wishes except that corrupt. Looking at her, she was very silent. Throughout my speech, I was expecting that she would probably kill me, or break our contract with her rule breaker, but she was strangely calm. Is this the whole truth? She asked me while she was looking at the floor. Yes, you are, not angry. She sat in a nearby chair while she sighed in disappointment. No, Victor, I'm not angry. If there was nothing like that, it will be too good to be true. I kept silent. I do not know what to say for her sympathy. I just crushed her hope now. It must be like going down from heaven to hell. I didn't tell you what my wish is, right? She spoke to me even though she was not looking at me. I wanted to become a human, in this age where the influence of the gods is so limited, that they cannot harm me again. I'm sorry, Medea, I really am. Do not be, she said calmly, although her voice bore a certain strength. It is not like you caused this, is it? Do you want to hear my story? I shook my head and moved to her side and hugged her. I did not have a fossilized heart, although I may be cold sometimes, but I can still sympathize. I already know it, Medea. She hugged me, too, and it's great knowing that she wasn't aggressive towards me, otherwise I would have been forced to use other methods. You are very smart, Victor, but you are devilish too. The child should not be like this, but you are a little sympathetic as well, so I think it's okay. Do you still want to stay as my servant? And trust me? Of course. What is our next step? When she pushed me a little, she said to me, strange that she had not asked me anything, or asked me to explain. Let's just leave, let's go back to Germany. I told her, I was already planning to withdraw some additional lines but I gave up on it. As long as my caster would leave with me, the ritual would never be completed, and therefore there would be no danger, and also, I was able to get a nice increase in power. Saber, Gilgamesh, and Ryder can kill each other, but that will not benefit them, and by a few weeks from now, we will already be in a media place where they will not be able to discover us, and also, I will be able to start learning magic media at that time, a magecraft of the Age of Gods. Although with the ritual failure it will be difficult to maintain media in this world, but as long as I can provide more energy, everything will be fine. Also, by my teenage age I can go to the clock tower where I will learn the modern magecraft. Okay, I'm going to amend the memories of the temple owners, Medea told me when I got up and went out. I sat in the chair while I decided to use this time to see my notifications. You have gained 1.800,000 EXP. You have reached level 30. You can choose a new feature. You have reached level 40. You can choose a new feature. You have gained 2,300,000 EXP. You have reached level 49. Total statistical points, 80. You killed Dire Muet of the Love Spot. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Magic resistance, B. Eye of the Mind, true, B. Love Spot, C. Noble phantasm. Gibidhi, B. Gidirg, B. This time, I didn't have to think because the options were clear. I chose magic resistance and the Eye of the Mind as skills, and for the noble phantasms I chose Gibidhi. Although the ability to cancel magic seems alluring, I prefer the ability to make wounds that will not heal. When I finished choosing, another window appeared. You killed Lancelot. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Mad Enhancement, C. Eternal Arms Mastership, A+. Magic Resistance, D. Protection of the Fairies, A. Noble Phantasm. Arrondinct, A++. For Someone's Glory, B. Knight of Honor, A++. Now, it took me a while to think. I didn't need magic resistance of D rank because I had one better, while I didn't want mad enhancement because I didn't want to lose my rationality, which left me with only 2 options, Protection of the Fieries and Eternal Arms Mastership, who were the best in fact. As for Noble Phantom, I did not choose for Someone Glory because my 4th wall is much better, and I was not a knight or a swordman in particular, so I did not choose an Arrondinct. On the other hand, it seems that the ability to transform any weapon I touch into a Noble Phantasm is amazing, so I chose Knight of Honor. Well, I'm ready now. Victor, my caster, Witch of Kalchi's Medea, told me after she finished removing her contact with the ley line in the temple. Our plan was simple. First we will take a commercial ship to China, then we will cross to Russia where we will take a ride to travel to Greece, before we go directly to Germany, where we will wait until my father passes the magic crest to me, and then we will go to the mountain in Greece where there is a Medea place. This was to be able to hide our way. When we came to Japan previously, Medea had control of some of the wealthy people who brought us here by their own plane. Also, Medea did not have an identity in the current era, so it might get into legal trouble. Also, we now have to go quickly, without the massive power supply from Ryudo Temple. Medea will not be able to use skills like elegant transportation us after that, but it will be able to maintain her other capabilities thanks to the large reserve of my OD, prana. Okay, Medea, let's go. I told her. She was now in civilian clothes, a grey jacket and blue pants. She looked like a foreign businesswoman. For the Japanese, we have already decided that there is no reason to kill Zukenmata, since we have already completely treating Korea. he can try to kill him himself. He may be able to train hard for several years, and also, when we leave Fuyaki, my mission will complete and I will get 10 million EXP free because I was needed to kill just one servant. We immediately got out of the temple and passed through the commercial street full of civilians. After all, even if we were discovered now, no magus would dare attack us in a place full of civilians. After nothing had passed, there were still laws preventing the maguses of the magecraft to the outside world. When we passed through an electronics store, there was a working TV showing its newsletter covering the appearance of Berserker and Lancer in the public park several hours ago, until the presenter titled them as a mysterious warriors. Because of this I might get into trouble later. I will be punished for this. Don't worry, the people mostly will forget this after some time, my servant told me as she touched my shoulder. I looked at her with a smile, as she was playing the role of my family more than my biological family, who despite living with them for a decade but Cynthia Von Doom and Warner Von Doom were more focused on their careers as a magus on their family lives. On the other hand, Medea was treating me better, although I think it was because I was a kid. You know, Medea, after everything is done I would like to tell you something, I told her while I smiled at her. Oh, you're not going to tell me something like we're really not real and we're in a dream world, right? She told me jokingly. I laughed a little at her joke, but I suddenly froze, because one of my new skills, Eye of the Mind, true, had warned me. Is there something wrong with you? Said Medea when she noticed that I had been frozen for a moment, but I didn't let her continue her words. I immediately used Magecraft of Reinforcement to strengthen my body and push Medea away. At that exact moment a golden sword flying at a very high speed penetrated the place where Medea was standing, and because I was in her place now I was hit. Luckily it was just scratched near my stomach, and even though I started bleeding, none of it was damaged my organs. I suffered a little and closed the blood flow with my hand. Victor, Medea shouted. No, Castor, when she saw that I was hurt and injured, and in a wave of light that covered her body her civilian clothes were transformed into a dark blue robe with a hood covering half of her upper face. She immediately ran to me and carried me and moved away from my previous position by jumping back. Now, I could see the one who attacked us, with blonde hair and a golden body armor, and a snobbish and arrogant smile on his face. Gilgamesh was standing on a nearby light pole while everyone looked down there as if nothing. At this point, civilians began to notice what was going on. A number of them began to flee, while the others remained and a few began to photograph and discuss. What happens here? Why is this woman wearing witch clothes? Do they making a movie? That sword penetrated the concrete floor. It looks very sharp. Victor, don't be afraid. I'll treat you right now, Medea said to me when she used her healing magic on me and my wound started closing quickly. That old worm is really right. You are Castor's master, Gilgamesh said. He seemed uninterested in the fact that Castor treated me, and he seemed to think that everything was under his control. In fact, he seemed to enjoy the fact that civilians were watching us, and he seemed to let Castor heal me only to serve his sadistic tendencies. I got out of a Castor load, and I pulled a dagger out of my inventory. I want you to control people to get them to move away from the area, and make sure to alter their memories. No, controlling a large number will consume a large amount of your prana. It is better to use it to escape, the probability of our victory being slim. I looked at her, taking advantage of the fact that Gilgamesh thought we were not so dangerous that he gave us time. It's all right, Medea, you can use whatever energy you want. While doing that, I'm distracting Archer. No, Victor, he is very strong. If Castor starts talking, but I don't let her continue her words. Castor, I said sharply, before I kindly finished, you can count on me. Castor remained silent before starting work. I looked at Gilgamesh before I closed my eyes and reopened them. Mystic eyes of death perception. Kid, don't be arrogant, you don't stand any chance in front of me, Gilgamesh said when he heard my words. And also, why do you care about some unimportant humans? Because you will kill them, they are innocent. I will not deny that I might kill them if they intercept my words, but, Gilgamesh said while smiling, do you think you can really stop me? At the moment I was firing at me a golden spear, perhaps at Mach 1, he might have underestimated me so he didn't fire his weapons at full speed. And this works perfectly for me, although I am a child but I am physically strong, and with the help of reinforcement magecraft and Eye of the Mind that gives me a futuristic vision of his movements, I can avoid his attacks despite its high speed. Not bad, kid, but you are barely up to the level of the other mongrels, Gilgamesh said while 3 weapons appeared behind me and released them close to me. I tilted my body in such a way that I would cross between the weapons without touching me. Kaire, since this is our farewell, I want you to know that you did well as an apprentice. For this, I have a gift for you. Tokyo-mi Tosaka said while sitting in the sofa. He was smiling, while talking to his temporary student, the son of the church judge Raisei Kutamini, Kaire Kutamini. Tokyo-mi carried a box and passed it towards Kari who was sitting in the sofa in front of him. Kaire opened the box and saw a long decorated dagger. This is, Kari said confusedly. Sword of Azuth, given that you were trained in the arts of the Tosaka family, I decided to give it to you. It is a special sword. I see, then, thank you, Tokyo-mi sensei, Kaire said while accepting the gift. Since your role in this war is over, suppose you return to the church. It seems to be true, Kaire said without showing any feelings on his face. By the way, where is Archer? Earlier, a visitor came up with important information about Castor's location. I sent him to kill him, Tokyo-mi answered as he stood up and started leaving. Halfway to the door, he turned again toward Kairi and said before he turned again, "By the way, communicates Rise my regards." "Of course," Kairi said, with a sadistic smile on his face, and he carried an Ashuth sword, approached Tokyo-me silently, and stabbed his back. I dodged the sword that was hardly hitting me while I started panting. It was this 12th round. This idiot continues to lay down his arms on me. Initially he was throwing it at the speed of sound only, but it started to increase its speed gradually, and now maybe he is throwing weapons at the speed of Mach 2, and the only reason I can continue currently is the increase in the strength of reinforcement and the mysterious effect of the original that makes me ignore fatigue. On the other hand, due to my misuse of reinforcement in addition to having to preserve media in its physical form and provide it with adequate manpower to wash the brains of civilians, in addition to defending it, I'm tired, and I hardly have any remaining mana. Maybe I will die here. In fact, Gilgamesh could have killed me from the start but decided to play with me. He must be enjoying this, watching me suffer. If I could just get close enough to him he would have been dead long ago. "Do you see? Mongrel, you will die here because of your stupidity," Gilgamesh said arrogantly when he saw that I'm tired. "Oh? Why don't you go down here to see who will die because of his stupidity?" I told him provocatively when I saw an opportunity. "You want me, the king of heroes, to share the same earth with you?" Gilgamesh frowned. "Have you heard me, you stupid bitch? Or are you so afraid?" "You," he said angrily while veins appeared in his pill, but he jumped to the ground. "Since you want death to this degree, do not blame me." He pulled a thin sword out of his store and began moving towards me with a cool expression on his face. Seeing this, I cunningly smiled and used a Knight of Honor on my dagger, which gave him a dark appearance, and he temporarily became a noble phantasm able to harm the servants. I used some of my remaining magical energy to reinforce the reinforcement magecraft again and rushed to Gilgamesh, who was not aware of the danger he was in. I was aiming to cut a death line in his neck, which would cause him to die in one fell swoop, when my dagger was about to touch him. He seemed to feel the danger, so he avoided my attack, though my knife still had cut the death line in his left shoulder armor, causing and destroying it. Gilgamesh was surprised and quickly turned back. "This, I see." He smiled as he inserted his sword as well as the other weapons into the Babylon Gate again while placing another shoulder armor. "Mystical eyes, interesting. In my time only the gods have something like that, and judging the effect of your eyes on my arm armor, I suppose they are not weak." I kept silent on me while he was talking. Damn it, how could I not have hit him? Had he given me time before to distribute my points the result would have been different. I do not want death, I will not die. While I was thinking about a solution, he took out a bow and an arrow and fired at me. This bow is very fast and that through the eye of the mind I assume that it will strike my heart directly and kill me. The arrow was very fast and I may not be able to avoid it, especially in my case weak now. However, I tilted my body slightly so that the arrow did not hit my heart, but it still penetrated one of my lungs and came out of my back. Asterisk cough cough asterisk. I coughed up blood while I ignored the pain coming from my wound and bleeding. I don't know how Shiro managed to defeat him. That's just nonsense. Really interesting, Gilgamesh said as he approached me and carried me from my neck. Although he choked me a little, I barely cared, and my vision began to fog and I was about to lose consciousness. No, I cannot surrender now. I have to stay determined. I pulled my hand over the dagger and reactivated my mystic eyes of death perception and tried to stab death lines in his head, but I was very slow and he grabbed my hand. "I like that, kid," he said to me with a smile. "What do you think of a bargain? You beg me to let you become my follower and I'll consider not killing you." I looked at him angrily. I wanted to insult him, even if that meant my death. I would not beg someone else, especially him, and of course I wouldn't become a follower of him, but the fatigue and blood loss began to overcome me and I started struggling to stay awake. Mana shots were fired towards Gilgamesh from the side, possibly because of his clairvoyant as he avoided them. However, he was hit afterwards when he turned away from me. Medea quickly approached me and grabbed me and started running in the opposite direction while at the same time she started healing my injuries. However, she also summoned a number of Dragon Tooth warriors to slow Gilgamesh. "Stay with me, Victor, please, don't close your eyes," she said to me kindly, but I feel as if she is begging me. I brought back some focus to my eyes, just to see that she was looking at me with begging in her eyes. I don't know why, but I suddenly felt the urge to rest her. "I'm fine, Medea. You are not like that, Victor. You are suffering from exhaustion in prana and there is a hole in your chest, and you are tired for a long time and yet you kept fighting. Why didn't you use the Tragos necklace to escape?" "Don't be stupid," I said to her quietly while I let her heal me. "She must be using her own magical energy now. If I escape he would have killed you. You are his target from the beginning." I picked up the necklace from my neck and put it on her. "Hey, can you teleport us both using it?" She looked at me with guilt in her eye. "Victor, this necklace is for saving only one person, not two. Jump to the side." I told her quickly and it seemed that she understood me, and in the place where we were he was hit with a golden sword. At a distance, Archer, Gilgamesh, was following us. "Why not just leave us? Medea, use the necklace to return to Ryudo," I said to her quietly. "No, Victor, what about you? You are still a child, I cannot allow your death here," she said to me as her speed increased again. At this rate she would quickly drain her strength and fade away. "No, I cannot allow this. Caster, don't force me to use the command seal." She looked at me for a moment. Usually when I address her sharply, she does not disobey me, but now she only smiles at me. "Victor, you know, you are a cruel, serious, and ruthless child. Nevertheless, you are not evil, you are so good, that you prefer to spend a command seal in contemplation that a few people are not harmed because of Lancer and Berserker, and that you asked me to save other people while you know it's possible to lose if we did that. Then instead of saving yourself you chose to guard my back. Caster, do you dare disobey me? I told her sharply again. Why don't she just listen to me? As long as she returns to the Ryuda temple she can keep herself from being scattered, while I can pull out something to make sure I won't die. Maybe I can escape if I'm lucky. Victor, you may not have noticed this, but you are the most important person to me. You are the one who summoned me and the only person I know of this era, and you are also my master, spoiled child. She told me while you put me on the ground and turned around and formed a magic shield to stop Gilgamesh weapons. In normal cases they could not do that, especially since Gilgamesh began to use their maximum speed, but her shield was able to stop them. This is evidence that she uses a very large amount of mana. I removed the glove from my left hand. Caster, using this command seal, I order you. Before I could complete my words she threw the Tragos necklace towards me. The moment that the necklace touched my clothes I was taken from the area. When I found myself in a dark alley, I was surprised for a second before realizing what happened, and I immediately resumed what I was doing. How my servant could be really stupid. Caster, with the power of the command seal, I order you to. Your servant, the Witch of Betrayal Medea, is dead. You got 0 EXP. To come to, here. I stared at the notice that appeared to me with wide eyes, and I did not find what to say. She died? Medea just died like this? This fast? For some reason, I was feeling pain in my heart, and this is not because the wound was not completely treated, it was on the emotional level. I began to remember my memories with her. Only 15 days, it was never long, but she was always kind to me, cared about me, and did anything I wanted, although she was not good at cooking, but I would not deny that I had fun when eating it, as she gave me gift. Thanks to the eidetic memory and librarian of stored knowledge, memories have flowed even if I didn't want them. In this life, I became a material person, and although I cared for some other people, Medea awoke an emotional side of me. I love her. She was beautiful, kind, and affectionate and was doing her best to help me, and she trusted me so much that she forgave me because I hid the fact that the Grail does not fulfill wishes. Even she sacrificed her life for someone like me. Medea, I said as tears started to flow from my eyes. I punched the wall, causing a small crack in it. Gilgamesh, you will regret this, and you will pay dearly. You must die. I immediately opened my state and thought about distributing points. I will return there. I will find Gilgamesh and I will kill him once and for all. I immediately stopped myself. Currently I am mentally and physically tired, and I am still injured, and I am gradually losing consciousness, and do not forget that I am dry from mana. To go towards Gilgamesh will earn me certain death, especially if he use EA. Also, death will be a quick getaway for him. He killed a person I love. He must suffer. In a moment of revelation I knew what I jade to do. I have to make him desperate, then give him hope, only to crush him again, and then I have to break his body first, before I broke his mind too, and in the end he would become the true mongrel. It would become something he disliked, and until that time all he waits for is constant torture of eternity. But even this will prove to be a challenge, and even by distributing my points I will not be able to defeat him when he becomes very serious. I may have to wait a long time, but revenge is a meal placed on a cold plate. This was not supposed to happen. It was assumed that with everything different, we were supposed to get our happy ending. All this because of them, and I will make sure they all will regret. I have previously tried to do only my work here and I leave them all. Even I tried to make sure that no one dies, regardless of Berserker and Lancer. The only human I have killed is Ryu Uniski. Gilgamesh said something about an old worm. It must be Zukenmatu, that bastard. He must be the reason why Gilgamesh came. I was planning to spare his life, but since he is determined to force my hand, he cannot blame me for killing some worms. There is also Tokyomi. After all, he is the person who summoned Gilgamesh, and I do not like the fact that he abandoned his daughter despite knowing the methods of the Mata family. Then there is his wife. Only because she is his wife and because she did not bother to check on her daughter, I will not kill her after all. She has nothing to do with it. Then there is Byakuya, son of Zuken. Since everyone insists on challenging me, I can only show them what I, Victor Von Doom, is made of. I sighed deep and wiped tears from my eyes and tried to calm the anger inside me. Medea did not go completely. I can summon her again. She may not remember what happened here, but she is not a different person. She will be the same person, although I must wait 10 whole years or try to figure out a way to summon heroic spirits. I also have to make sure that everything happens as it is supposed to happen, or else I will have to wait 60 years. At this moment a new window appeared in front of me. A new mission, Lost Love. Description: the girl you love, Medea, has been killed by the king of heroes Gilgamesh. You have to take back your love, and maybe get your good revenge too. Goal: to return your love one way or another. Reward: 500,000 EXP, random NP. I looked at the new task for a long time before waving to make the window disappear. I didn't need a task to do something I wanted to do. No, I needed to do that. At this moment a new window appeared. Because of your contract with the Witch of Betrayal Medea, you can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills: item construction, A. Territory creation, A. High-speed divine words, A. Golden fleece, X. Noble phantasm. Rule breaker, C. Argon coin, N/A. I looked at the notice for a moment before I thought about ignoring it, but I rethinked. Although it leaves a taste in my mouth, but I will need these skills in the long run in order to achieve my goal. I immediately chose item construction, high-speed divine words and rule breaker, although territory creation is also a good skill, but I don't see any benefit from it in the long run, especially since I can learn it later. While golden fleece and argon coin is useless, if Medea could use them, she would have been the third strongest servant in this war. Also, item creation will be very useful because I will take Medea knowledge of making mystic codes and NP, which will help me a lot. I carried the necklace that Medea gave me as a gift and looked at the golden heart before putting it on me. Aoi Tosaka closed the door of her daughter's room. Rin Tosaka, after making sure she was really sleeping, she was thirsty now, so she got down to the first floor of the house where there is the kitchen and drank a glass of tap water. Recently, she really began to miss her husband, Tokiomi Tosaka. Of course, she was not satisfied with the fact that her husband abandoned her youngest daughter, Sakura, to the Mato family, but as a loyal wife she must trust her husband and agree to his decisions. However, they were away for a whole 2 weeks, and she started to get upset a little. After all, the woman has her needs. When she thinks about Sakura again, she tries to remind herself that she is no longer her daughter. She has become Sakura Mato. She also remembered her childhood friend, Kariya Mato, had not seen him for more than a year when he told her that he would return Sakura. She has no doubt that he will try. He and her 2 daughters have always been so close, but she doesn't think he's strong enough to do that. There was a small part of it that he really hoped to do, but another large part hoped that it would fail, even if that meant his death. After all, even if Sakura returns, she has no place in the Tosaka family. She hated this, but it's the truth. Ringing, ringing. The doorbell drew her attention. I wondered who might come at this time because little was known about their temporary stay in this home, and despite her wondering, she almost immediately went to see the visitor. She opened the door slowly, only to see a black-haired child with dark green and bright eyes. He would look good if the fact that his clothes were a little torn and dirty was ignored, and that there were a number of blood stains hidden in his black shirt, while she was noticed that there is what appears to be a bullet hole in his chest and that he seems to have a verdict that there is a bandage in that place. The most interesting thing is the golden necklace around his neck that has a heart-shaped ornament. It looks like a kind of gift that children give each other to show their love. When looking at him, he was calm, although his eyes showed hidden anger, and also great determination. Greeting, the foreign boy said, and inserted himself into the house without an invitation, so that he passed through Aoi as if it did not exist. When he crossed several meters inside, he turned to face Aoi, who immediately became a little worried, perhaps because of his appearance or because of something else, but she was a little scared. Who are you, kid? Please, the boy said calmly, you can call me Victor. What do you want? Because of the way the child spoke, her fear increased a little. The door was still open and she could escape at any time, but she would not dare to do so. Not because she did not think this child was dangerous, although she was just an ordinary person, but she was aware that appearances were deceptive because she was Magus's wife. The reason why she would not run away is that her daughter is still here. Now, close the door behind you and move forward. We don't want to make it turn ugly, don't we? Victor said with a smile on his face and winked towards her. Aoi froze in place. She realized there was something wrong with this boy, but the fear was not the reason for her freezing. It was another thing, and she felt like a part of his character that forced her to submit to his will, but for some reason she was sure that he was not a magecraft. Aoi looked at him for a few seconds before closing the door and followed him to the living room. This was my origin, determination, and because your will was less than mine, it was making you submit very easy, Victor said as he sat on the sofa. What do you want? In fact, the first thing I want is to talk a little bit. Where do I start? Yes, do you know what is happening to your daughter in the Mata family? Victor asked her while his smile disappeared. I know, she is the current heiress. Of course she is. If you mean that she is repeatedly raped by worms every day, yes, she is the heir, said Victor while sighing with disappointment. What? This is not possible. From Aoi's tone began to become a little aggressive. Do you want to wake Rin? She must be sleeping now, said Victor, interrupting Aoi. Hearing that, she immediately realized Victor's intention. You may have already realized this, but I went through a terrible day, and nevertheless let's go back to the story. I'm one of the participants in the Holy Grail War, and Castor's master. Why are you saying this to me? Aoi frightenedly said, this time for her justified fear of what Tokiomi said to her. The war was no joke. It is simple, you know, my planning skills are not a good thing, so I gave up trying to intelligently defeat others, and it is time to use force, and also, you will not remember anything anyway. Now, back to the topic. Victor calmly told her. Truth is said, despite his calmness, but there is a glimpse of madness in his eyes, as if he had entered a situation where he no longer cares about anything. Your husband's servant killed my servant, and frankly, I am not happy, and although I will not enjoy this, you cannot blame me for what I will do with you, Mrs. Aoi, at least I will not kill you. Ryder and Waver Velvet sat in the garden, while Waver was wearing his usual clothes. Ryder, Alexander the Great, was wearing blue jeans with a shirt with the Earth map on his chest. Oh, why is he so late? Wasn't he the one calling us here? Waver grumbled while putting his head back. He looked at Alexander the Great and asked him, hey, Ryder, what do you think he wants? Stop grumbling like that, you embarrass me. As for your question, I don't know, Ryder said humorously. But since Berserker is already dead, I don't think there's any reason to really worry. So, do you have an explanation for why he is late? Ryder looked at his master from the side of his eyes. When arranging a meeting of some kind between two people who are not friends, the inviting part is late in order to make sure that the other side is not planning anything. Oh, he came. Waver said suddenly when he noticed that the boy named Victor was approaching from a distance. They waited silently until Victor arrived near them, when Ryder, Alexander the Great, cordially greeted him. Hey, kid. Victor looked at him frowning. He opened his mouth to speak before closing it, and he turned around Waver. Victor pulled a paper out of his pocket before giving it to Waver. This is for you. Waver took the paper with suspicion before looking at its contents with the shock of this. Oh, let me see. Alexander said before taking the paper from the hand of his master. This. Ryder's expression turned to seriousness before looking at Victor. Are you sure? This is Archer information, Gilgamesh. You do not need to thank me. So, why did you give us this? Alexander seriously asked. Currently, only you, Archer, and Saber are left. Maybe everything will end today, and between you and Saber, you have the greatest chance to win. Victor said with a smile before looking at the side. There is in a distance. There were some lights in the sky. It seems that this is your call. Alexander looked a moment at Victor before turning around his master. Well, what do you want to do? Waver looked to the ground for a second. Ryder, you must fight. Yes. Alexander the Great smiled before taking out his sword, and with a thunderbolt hitting the empty park, he wore his servant's clothes, and summoned his cart. Are you coming, master? Alexander said before he answered him. Yes. Victor saw them with a frown when they left. Happy Death Day, King of the Conquerors. I sneaked into the Mata family palace by using my presence concealment. At its current A+ level, even servants will have trouble finding me while I'm in stealth mode, let alone magus from the modern era. I quietly sneaked into what I suppose was the Sakura Mata room, former Sakura Tosaka. I quietly opened the door just to see that she was, apparently, quietly asleep, and I went beside her and shook her to wake her up. She woke up and rubbed her eyes a little before she realized I was in front of her. She looked at me with eyes free of life even though she seemed worried. Who are you? Don't worry, I smiled. I had to relax her a little. I'm here to get you out of here, Sakura. Your uncle sent me. Korea Ajisen did. Yes, now, so come with me. I told her while she held her hand and tried to pull it gently. No, she told me hard. Grandpa won't let this happen. You have to run quickly. In that case. I left her hand and smiled at her again. Just wait here a little bit, okay? I'll be back right away. Okay. She looked at me a little before nodding. I removed the smile from my face and entered the presence concealment again. This skill resembles to stealth, although if I used it in front of someone he could still notice me, and if I tried to attack and I am in it, the skill level is dropping dramatically, which causes my enemy to discover where I am. Originally, I was not planning to kill Zuken today, because I remember that he was reported to have planted worms containing a tip of his soul inside Sakura with the Dark Grail, and even though I knew that he had not planted the Grail inside Sakura yet I didn't want to take the risk, but since the little girl does not want to leave with me to meet her uncle, I may also kill him. It may be difficult to kill Zuken in one fight against one because his body is made of worms, but I believe that killing him is possible if I cut the death lines associated with his brain. I sneaked across the palace and ignored the fact that I saw some residents with blue hair, and I went straight to the place where Zuken might be, his office. It was devoid of people. I ignored the sound of the many clocks and I stood in the right corner for the assassination. After about 10 minutes of waiting, a hidden door was opened that gave him an hour and a bald old man, who had a short, curved back, with a pale blue-black skin, and although he looked and died at any moment, his eyes showed a strong spirit. This thin was Zuken Matu. It was not appropriate to call him Mockery Zalgen since everything that makes up him has long since disappeared. Looking at him now, it is hard to believe that it was said that at his peak he possessed a power similar to that of servants. Maybe he will reach the throne of heroes when I kill him. While I walked with silent steps and slowing heartbeat, my unnoticeable presence in presence concealment, I strengthened my body with reinforcement magecraft and used the Knight of Honor on my dagger before I quickly cut the death lines attached to his head. You killed Mockery Zalgen. You got 600,000 EXP. You have reached level 50. I looked at the notice quietly. It seemed that this unholy thing had not yet sown its soul in any other human, but this does not mean that I should not burn the worms in the basement, in addition to every adult in the building, and maybe stealing all the books and knowledge Sukens gather in all of the 500 of his life. I will save Shinji, because he's a kid and although he will grow up to be a dick and douchebag, I believe Korea will be able to raise him and Sakura better. Speaking of Korea, his vitality has been greatly depleted. Presumably he will die before reaching the age of 50. It is sarcastic that the world punish the best and good people and give rewards to the bad ones. I used the words of a spell of fire in a low voice and launched it towards the body of Zuken, which started to turn into a group of worms. After killing Zuken and the adult Mata family members, I took all the magic books that Zuken Mata had in his secret room, which is a number of hundreds of books. In addition to that I found some catalysts, such as a party of Boudica clothes, and a piece of Lancelot armor in addition to the Book of the False Attendant, which can act as a type of command. Seals, in addition to the notes of Mockery Zalgen himself. I also burned the sea of worms in the basement, and I inserted the bodies of the Mata family in my inventory. As a necromancer, these things will come to the hand later. As for Shinji, I left him asleep. After all, it would not be appropriate to let a 6-year-old know that all members of his family had been killed. I do not want to make Shinji get red eyes with breaks. As for the little Sakura, I rested her and told her that everything was going to be okay. I hope the worms haven't taken her virginity yet. I heard that the worms have some serious diseases. I went to the front door of the palace and opened it to see the person who knocked on the door, Kuriyamata, because I called him before. His hair was white, while he had what seemed to be a scar on his left face skin, but he seemed healthier since the last time I saw him in what he can walk normally and no longer cough up blood every minute. Victor. Kuriya enthusiastically entered. Is that right? You killed him? Yes, I calmly replied. Sakura is in her room, you can check on her, and Kuriya, can you be quieter? I'm sorry, I'm just very happy. He looked at me silently for a few moments before telling me sincerely about Castor. I'm really sorry. There is nothing to be sorry. I told him while stressing my voice, her death was not because of you. I would be grateful if you hadn't spoken about this again. So Deshi was about to speak, but I spoke before him. You're a really good person, Kuriya. What do you mean? He surprisedly asked. You know that no one will sacrifice both his life and health in order to save a little girl from her miserable fate. If it wasn't for me, you would be dead now. I think I'm lucky that you are here, he said with a smile. So what is going to happen now? I sighed a little and went to look through the window that overlooks the city. Since you were the last surviving Matu, all of the magical family inheritance and custody of Sakura and Shinji are passed on to you. I hope you raise them well. No, I mean, what will you do? I looked at it from the corner of my eyes. For me, I think I will go home, and maybe complete my studies in magecraft. I see. Kuriya said calmly, so this is the farewell. It shouldn't be. I looked at him with a slight smile. You own my number, and it will not be the last time I come to Japan. Before he could speak, we heard the sound of an explosion from the outside. From our current location, the sound sounded far and light. Kuriya came immediately to look from the window with me. What is this? I looked at the city with the fire. It is the end of the Holy Grail War. Nobody win. Kuriya looked at the window in awe, speaking calmly as I took my way out. See you later, Kuriya. I did not wait. I answered him and went out of the door and closed the door behind me. After that I searched around until I found a suitable hill to see the scene of Fuyaki's burning. Not because I had a sadistic tendency, but because I just wanted to remind myself that this war is over, and now I have 10 years to prepare for the next war, and maybe I should collect the pieces of the destroyed part of the Grail. I can create a lesser Grail. While I was quietly pondering the scene in my heart, I saw my new notifications. You finished the main mission, the 4th Fuyaki Holy Grail War. The main mission, the 4th Fuyaki Holy Grail War. Description: 7 Magus summoned 7 servants to fight to the death in order to claim the Holy Grail. Now all the masters have arrived in Fuyaki, and you are one of them. Objective: as a master in this war, you must at least kill 1 servant or master. Rating: very good. Basic reward: 10 million EXP. Bonus reward: opening mount feature, Giganotosaurus. You have reached level 68. Total statistical points: 118. You can choose 6 perks. You gained a new title, Survivor. Survivor, increase your chances of surviving deadly or serious wounds by 10%. I looked at the list with a little shock. My new address might appear to be more useful in the future, but the new job is what interests me, and the fact that I got what appears to be an extinct dinosaur thousands of years ago. I thought of calling it now, but I decided to wait until later. I opened my statistics and distributed a few of my points. Previously, I wanted to save them in order to put them all in the spirit because I would need a crazy amount of mana to preserve the media, but now I decided to put them in. After thinking a little bit, I distributed a total of 35 points. Name: Victor Von Doom. Level: 68. Title: Survivor. Strength: 10.5. Body: 10.6. Agility: 10.9. Mind: 3.1. Spirit: 25.4. Statistical points: 83. Number of circuits: 20. Circuit quality: A+++. Capacity: 20x 250 equals 5000. Composition: dynamic. Origin: determination. Elements: fire, ether, time, space. Sorcery trait: none. Skills: observation, magecraft C, rapid reflexes C, mystic eyes of death perception A, psychology A, marksmanship D, present concealment A+, librarian of stored knowledge C, magic resistance B, eye of the mind, true, eternal arms mastership A+, protection of the fairies A, high-speed divine words A, item construction A. Perks: 4th wall, eidetic memory. NP, Kaziklibe, B, Zabaniya, delusional illusion, B+, Gibadhi, B, Knight of Owner, A++, rule breaker, C. I evenly distributed my points between strength, body, and agility and connected them to what seemed to be the minimum level of servants, rank E. I can raise them more, but I still want to try to increase my body strength by training before that. As for the mind, with statistics over 3 times the number of people, I think I am smart enough. After all, increasing statistics causes a physical change, and since the mind controls the ratio of brain cell activity and effectiveness, it may cause this statistic to grow to the size of my skull. As for the spirit, since I last became almost certain of its effects, it not only strengthens my circuits and increases my prana amplitude, it also increases my affinity with the elements and increases my origin strength, and increases my magic effectiveness and my talent in learning magic. Also, I now have 5000 OD, by virtue of the fact that Rin has only 1000, and Arteria has Dragon Blood it has only 1500, and the average Magus possesses 450. I am now a pit of energy, and do not forget that my resistance increased too. Maybe even Medea you will find difficulty controlling my body. Now it's time for perks. I can choose up to 6, and I believe there are some things that can help me. Perks. Mental interference. Get basic capabilities in both telepathy and mental mobility. Fast learner. Increase the speed of learning new skills and information and training old skills by 100%. Infinite potential. Remove all of your physical limits. The unequal exchange. When you make something with magecraft, the world will not try to remove it. Gamer's luck. Decrease the chance of bad things happening to you by 5%, and increase your chances of good things going by 5%. The third eye. Having a third eye on your forehead gives you a certain level of foresight and an increase in perception. Black belt. Increase the speed of learning Western and Eastern martial arts. Strong, 1+ in strength, body, and agility. Ladies killer. Increase the attractiveness of the opposite sex to you. Increase the damage against women by 10%. Anabolic resistance. Increases the body's resistance to radioactive substances and toxins significantly. I looked at the list for a moment and removed all perks from the low or selfless level. In the end I ended up choosing both the luck of the players, the unequal exchange, the infinite possibilities, fast learner, the mental interference and the anabolic resistance. I have walked through the grass cover of the forest and passed through the trees. I will not deny that my family cared for the tree cover a lot. 21 days have passed since the beginning of the Holy Grail War, and 3 days since its end. It has been said that nearly 134 buildings have been destroyed and the number of victims estimated at more than 500 civilians. This was a disaster for Japan, and the Mage Association may send investigators to try to find out what exactly. After all, the Holy Grail, especially one that works unlike all the other grails, is so important to both the association and the supernatural world. After what seemed like 3 weeks, especially as this time was hard and tiring for me, I started to miss the cold house a little. It didn't take long before I got to the magic barrier surrounding the family palace. I extended my hand to feel the barrier only to find that the barrier kept me from entering. It is closed. I said quietly. Something must have happened, like all ordinary Magus' families, although we set a barrier for safety and protection, but we only close it when necessary. I sighed lightly before turning around the barricade until I reached a blind spot that allowed people to pass even when the barrier was closed. Originally created as a smuggler if the barrier closure was used against us, to say for example that the enemy continue to wait outside, in that case we either open the barrier so they can kill us or we keep hiding until we die of hunger. This stain, which allowed the passage of Von Doom blood through his veins, was created in order to ensure our escape. As heir, I know about it. I entered and activated the present concealment immediately and immediately passed through the distance between the wall and the house in order to find someone. I am worried, although my extended family is a group of selfish people with a cold heart, but I am not ready to lose my twin sister. I found my little brother, Silas, in the garden while it seemed that he was meditating on birds over the trees, which seems to be planning to kill them. I approached him from behind and touched his shoulder. He turned with a panic. What? Welcome, to Silas. I told him with a smile. Victor, are you back? He asked me confusedly. I just arrived. I told him. Why is the barrier is close? Hey, how did you get in? I told him while ignoring his question. Just answer my question. Silas, I'm in a hurry. Our father is dead. He answered me while there was no great sorrow. Now, our second uncle is the boss, and he's taken the magic crest. Where were you anyway? No wonder he was not sad. Our father was not a father figure to follow, perhaps because he did not bother to put a soundproof spell in his workshop, so we can hear the sound of his victims screaming in agony. What exactly happened? I don't know. They told me he died mysteriously. However, now it is our uncle who claimed to lead the family. Maybe we are lucky that he didn't want to marry our mother. Haven't any investigators from the association been sent? Hey, you guys have set up an investigation mission, right? No, he answered me honestly. No evidence was revealed that it was a murder, so there was no reason to place a mission. Anyway, where were you? New main mission, murder? Description: you just returned to your family to discover that your father died of unknown causes, and for some strange reason your family did not appoint an investigator. Subject: find out the cause of your father's death, and if it is a crime, discover the murderer. Reward: 100,000 EXP. In the nowhere I told him as I started walking towards the palace, it is better to hear the story from a more credible party. I decided that this person would not be anyone but my mother, Cynthia Von Doom, so I immediately went to her office and knocked it 3 times before I heard her voice, and I opened the door cautiously. Victor, she said when she saw me, where have you been all this time? You don't know what happened. I heard my dad died, I said to her quietly. Yes, and because you were not around, someone else became the head of this family. Can you speak calmly? You have no idea what I've been through for so long, I said to her quietly while I used my origin to force my will on her. Can I know why you guys did not appoint an investigator from the association? I asked her again, while continuing to force my will on her. There was no reason to do that. His death seemed a natural death, so either the killer used unknown methods or he was very good at hiding his effects. In both cases, no one would agree to investigate a crime without real evidence, she told me quietly. I see. I slightly contemplated what I heard before leaving the room. See you later, Mom. I missed you by the way. When I got out, I set my next destination, my father's workshop. If he would leave any evidence, there would be. After all, my father was not stupid. If he knew that he would be assassinated, he would leave evidence behind him, at least. Brother. A soft girl voice called after me. I just turned to see my beautiful twin, with light green eyes and black hair. Valeria Rachel Von Doom ran to me and hugged me. Brother, where have you been? Why did you leave without telling me anything? I hug her, too. Before I separated her from me, I had to do something. Wait. Did you grew several centimeters in such a short time? Hey, don't tease me like this. She told me with a fake anger. She did not like the fact that she was shorter than me. I need to do something, Valeria. What do you think about speaking later? I told her while I slowly moved back. She stretched out her hand towards me before lowering her. Okay, brother, bye. I waved a gentle smile on my face before I headed towards the basement, which contains all the family workshops, and I passed it cautiously before I went to my father's workshop, Warner Von Doom. Well, I have a murder to solve, and a mission to do. What an amazing first day at home. I slowly opened the workshop door. Fortunately, it seemed that my father had not put in place any security measure, or that he had put it in and was removed after his death. However, I entered the workshop and looked around. It was very similar to my own workshop, with the only difference being the presence of animal bones and a humeral containing human organs such as the eyes, and also, there is dry blood above the dissection table. Seeing this, I remembered that my father told me that necromancers are walking with death, and he told me that this really involves our family. I never really considered his words, nor will I consider them now. I searched around the room workshop for several minutes, and regardless of my father's diaries related to the create a special kind of zombie undead, I did not find anything important or it could be considered a real guide. I thought a little. My father was a cold and indifferent person. If I were in his place and I knew that someone was going to kill me, I would most likely hide the evidence in a secret room where the killer would not be able to know it. Secret construction. Research. Closed my eyes and muttered in the ancient Greek language. This was a simple spell that Medea taught me, the original purpose of which was to discover small cracks and impurities in tools, but it can be used to discover hidden rooms and bunkers. I opened my eyes and saw that what appeared to be the shape of a door frame had become visible in the wall, with what appeared to be a tin button on the side. Seeing this, I smiled a little. Even after her temporary death, Medea still had my back. I approached the door in moderate steps before pressing the button. The wall that forms the door came back before it went under the ground and revealed a room measuring 2x2 meters. I did not enter it until after making sure there were no traps. I looked at its contents. It was just empty with a chair and a small desk, and there is a tool that looks like a 3D diamond. I hesitantly sat on the chair before using the note on the mysterious device. Certain recordings. Type, Mystic Code. Effects. The ability to record audio files. Storage capacity is 60 day. Users, Warner Von Doom, Victor Von Doom. I looked at this tool with interest, not because of its function but rather the fact that it considers me to be a user, which means that the only ones who can use it are my father and me. In order to confirm my complaint, I ran it immediately. Greetings. I heard the sound of my father. My name is Warner Von Doom, and I am the fourth successive head of the Von Doom family. Today is May 6, 1994, and I just knew that my oldest son had left in order to do what he says is an important thing. I quietly listened. If you hear this recording, I am mostly dead or disappeared, and you are in fact my son Victor. You are the only one who can hear this recording because I made it this way. About 12 years ago, my second brother, Alexander Von Doom, and I discovered notes belonging to the first head of our family. More especially, we discovered a dangerous secret about our family's magic crest, which seemed to have not been made by our family's founder as we thought. Instead, he found it in ruins from the era of the gods. My ears moved a little. Upon hearing this, it seemed to be an important and interesting thing. Before we get to the point, there is a secret that is hidden from everyone including the heir until he gets the crest, which is that the crest gives its owner a very powerful magic feast, the demonic anchorage. The reason for this was very mysterious, until we discovered those notes. It seems that our magic crest contains a powerful being inside it. The founder of our family referred to him in the name of the devil. In normal cases he had to destroy it and kill this demon immediately, but he was blinded by greed. When we found out, Alexander and I searched for a way to kill the devil without affecting the mark. We could not, but we discovered that with every generation of our family the family members' bodies become more suitable to work as a vessel of the devil. This was very shocking. Day by day, I began to notice that Alexander began to become obsessed with the mark more and more, until he dared to tell me that with the help of the devil we can rule the world. I will not lie, I have been tempted a little, but I still have principles. My dream is to reach to the root, and not the rule of the world, so I disciplined Alexander, but he did not seem very satisfied. Now, if I am dead, then I certainly do not know the identity of my killer, but it will be mostly Alexander. This is if he took the mark to himself. Now, my son, be careful. The end of the recording. After my father's voice stopped, I sat there quietly and silently. What I just heard was something very serious, the fact that we are brought up to absorb some of the old villain. I don't know what the devil is, but anything that is called the devil will not be good, and of course the fact that I can't get the magic crest bothers me a lot. Damn it, why does the tragedy keep falling on me? Now, not only must I become stronger to bring back my wicked witch to life, but I also have to kill my uncle because, in fact, my father betrayed and killed by him, and I also have to make sure that some kind of demons does not go free and make hell on earth. Main mission completed. Murder? Description: you just returned to your family to discover that your father died of unknown causes, and for some strange reason your family did not appoint an investigator. Subject: find out the cause of your father's death, and if it is a crime, discover the murderer. Reward: 100,000 EXP. New main mission: The Devil Within. Description: your research on your father's murder led to your discovery that your uncle killed your father, because he believed that a devil would give him universal authority. Objective: revenge against your uncle after discovering the devil's new place. Reward: 300,000 EXP. Mission series. I looked at the mission sarcastically on my face. It seems my stupid uncle freed the devil even. Congratulations, more work for me? How wonderful. I sighed while I stored the certain recordings in my inventory before I hit my head with the table. I must actually complete this mission. Comment. 32 comment. I closed the secret room with a serious expression on my face. After that I got out of the workshop and closed it tightly. What I just discovered was not a simple thing. The fact that the word devil was combined with a higher entity means the fact that what I deal with at least with him on a global level. Now, there are three possibilities, although there are signs of the presence of God and the angels in this world, but there are no real demons. There are only beings such as the ONI and the magic monsters. The first possibility is that I am dealing with a demon god, though I do not remember they were converting the Crest's body to suitable containers, and they did not need exit assistance. The second possibility is that I am dealing with a conglomerate of evil and angry spirits, like Jack the Ripper, but this possibility is very small because instead of his seal they could only have performed ritual expulsions. So the last possibility is that it's demon, a creature made of a clump of human thoughts, similar to the gods, that we can say that dealing with these people is very difficult, and more annoying. Valeria. When I saw my sister waiting for me outside the workshop, I said I am sure that she did not enter the workshop, so she did not discover the information that she discovered. What are you doing here? I were waiting for you, you idiot. She said to me annoyed, can I ask you something? I ignored that she called me an idiot. Of course, Valeria, what do you want? Where were you all this time? I participated in the Holy Grail War, and I was Caster's master, I answered honestly, as there was no point in trying to hide it. What holy war? She confusedly replied. I didn't give her an accurate answer. Search about it, there are books in the library for something. I looked at her for a moment and waited for her to say something, but when I saw that she kept silent, I left in a moderate move towards my father's office, which I think is being used by my uncle now. Knock ********. I knocked on the door twice before going back one step. You can enter. My uncle's rough voice heard from the other side of the door, and I opened the door cautiously. Oh, Victor, I'm so glad you decided to go through my office. I was about to find you. My uncle, Alexander von Doom, smiled when he saw me. I looked around the desk. There were pictures of the family's ancestors in the wall, and there were some scary decorations. Above the desk, there were a number of documents and files with a knife and scissors. Do you want something, Victor? I smiled at him. In the previous days I trained my new mental abilities, and although I find it difficult in the category of telepathy, the mental movement is much more simple. I focused on both the knife and the scissors and made them fly to hit Alexander in both his knees and his chest quickly. Moan from pain. What the curse? I didn't answer him. In fact, in the moment that was struck by scissors and a knife, I activated my mystic eyes of death perception and pulled a dagger out of my stock, strengthened my body with reinforcement magecraft, and I cut the death lines connected to his right arm. So in fact, the moment I moved my white arms in my mind, I was already in front of him and cut off his arm. Oh, he shouted with pain, and looked at me with a mixture of anger and fear. You'll regret this, you little shit. I know I will. I said to him calmly, by that time, I want you to talk to me about your new friend that you freed. He looked at me, and although he was agonizing and struggling to make the blood stop flowing, he smiled brutally. You know then. If you have to know that since you dared harm me, you will surely regret. I kicked him on his chest to drop him to the ground before stepping on half of his arm still attached to his body. Of course, I used the abilities of my origin on him. Just answer my question. Where is he? He's in the secret closet behind the bookshelf. He said with panic. His resistance seems very weak since he was easily affected. He is also so weak that he needs a tube to live without the vessel. So please, my nephew, do not kill me. I sighed in disappointment. I hardly used any power, but he easily underwent. For some reason, I feel ashamed that I share the same blood with him. I immediately cut the death lines connected to his neck to end his suffering. I just hope that he will not turn into an evil spirit. You killed Alexander von Doom. You gain 3000 EXP. You have completed the main mission, The Devil Within. Description: your research on your father's murder led to your discovery that your uncle killed your father, because he believes that a demon will give him universal authority. Topic 1. Revenge against your uncle after discovering the Devil's Iron Place. Reward: 300,000 EXP. New achievement: water is thicker than blood. Description: kill someone from your biological family. Bonus: random perk. New main mission: he is here. Description: your long search led to the discovery of Devil's location. You may have to face it, but the cold chills on your back tell you to run away. Subject, enter the room and face out of the devil, without death. Bonus, 100,000 EXP. Punishment, game over. I immediately looked at the new mission and decided to intervene quickly. My uncle said that Satan is very weak, so I hope his defeat will not be a problem, because I do not want this to be the end of the game. I immediately destroyed the bookshelf to reveal another room. In the middle of the room there was a wide tube, inside of which had a black and red smoke body, the presence of empty entries for the eyes and mouth. Seeing this, I assumed immediately that he was called the devil. I used reinforcement magecraft and took out another dagger from my inventory and used a Knight of Honor on both daggers. I immediately rushed to the container and destroyed it by cutting its death lines. I cannot see death points, but when looking at the smoky body in front of me, I will assume that its weak point is its center where many death points are intertwined, so I tried to cut them off. The devil immediately pushed himself back and out of his body 3 shapes rushed to attack me. I immediately recognized them, ghosts, or evil spirits more accurately. I immediately kicked the ground in front of me to turn back to create some space between me and them. After all, I do not believe that my resistance is sufficient to prevent the spirits from entering my body. When they got back to my range, I immediately cut the death lines connected to them quickly. You killed an evil spirit, you gained 3000 EXP. You killed an evil spirit, you gained 3000 EXP. You killed an evil spirit, you gained 3000 EXP. Interesting. The devil said in a rough voice when he settled in the corner of the ceiling of the room. These eyes, the way you use them, I will dare and say that they are the mystic eyes of life perception. No, souls are not a living thing. You have eyes specialized in the death, right, Victor? Hearing his voice, he immediately gave me a feeling that this being is something unholy. You know me, I don't know you. Oh, where is my etiquette? It wouldn't be appropriate for you to call me Satan. You can call me Mephisto, young man. Well, Mephisto, can I know what you are exactly? A demon. I told him to try to get some information. I am not like that, stupid child. Previously, I was one of God's creatures who did not want to abide by his laws, so I descended to earth and spread corruption among human beings. God? Which one of them? There are many. Ha ha ha. He laughed. As much as you know, the same person who gave Solomon his rings, and sent Gabriel to confirm the birth of Christ. You mean, the God of heavenly religions? I asked him with a slight shock. This was an affirmation of the existence of God, even though it might just be another divine spirit. The time for talk is over, boy. I will tell you what will happen now. In this world you are the most suitable human being to host me in his body, especially because of your physical and magical potential, so you cannot blame me for what will happen now. He told me before the evil spirits began to leave his body. I took the first step, and took advantage of my superb physical abilities and my magical boost to cut death lines in milliliters of lives. You killed an evil spirit, you gained 3000 EXP 8x. I took Gibidhi out of my inventory and targeted its weak spot, before I throw the spear at my top speed. The spear should have hit him at his weak point, but it seemed that he sensed the danger at the last minute and dodged, but the spear cut a few lines of death, and his body began to fade slowly. Just remember, when I regain my full strength, I'm going to bring hell to earth, he said angrily before he opened a rift in space and quickly escaped from him. You have completed main mission, he is here. Description: your long search led to the discovery of Satan's location. You may have to face it, but the cold chills on your back tell you to run away. Subject: enter the room and cry out of the devil, without death. Bonus, 100,000 EXP. So how are the new magic circuits, Lord Elmalloy? He said. An old man with white hair and a long beard. In front of him, a blonde man with a noble blue dress was standing, and despite several veins in his face, he looked very happy, especially since after 6 months he could walk again. It looks exactly the same as mine. Thank you. I will always be in debt to the Atlas Institute. Remember, although you can now use magecraft again, this magic circuits will never reach the original quality, and overusing them will cause them to fail, and this is not something you want. Yes, Kenneth said with a less happy tone. In order to hope to fix his magic circuits and nerves, he had to spend very large funds in order to communicate with and persuade the experts at the Atlas Temple, and even at that time they had to take all of his blood samples and genes and his parents to make homunculus possess magic circuits suitable for him, before they are transferred. Of course, they can move anyone's circuits, but the risks to this outweigh the benefits, and even after making a suitable homunculus, they had to undergo a painful process to remove the damaged ones. And all of this would not have been possible had it not been for the fact that he had internal contacts with the Temple of Atlas. But in the end, everything was worth it, and now those idiots in the Lord's meetings will not be able to ridicule him anymore, and most importantly, he can resume his lessons of spiritual summoning and his career. Lord Elmalloy called the old man. Kenneth looked at him anxiously. Have a good day, the old man said with a smile. It was quiet in the traditional neighborhood of Miama town, and the only thing that could be heard was the sound of wind and birds blowing, so the streets were empty because the weather was so hot. In Emiya's residence, Kiritsugu Emiya, one of the masters of the previous Holy Grail War, was sitting on his balcony and watching his backyard. This was his daily routine more than 6 months ago, when his dream was shattered and he discovered that everything was for nothing, and even when he tried to correct everything by destroying the Holy Grail, this caused the destruction of part of the city with more than the death of 500 innocent people. This left him completely shattered, as no one could survive the devastation after that fateful night, as he was so desperate that he could only sit in this place for long days. He tried to return to the Einsburn Palace to see his daughter, after discovering that Angra Mainyu was cursed and that his body would get weaker over time. All he could do was return to his daughter and live the rest of his life quietly. But Jubstatiat von Einsburn did not let him cross the magical barrier that surrounds the palace, which prevented him from seeing Ilya, all because he had saved the world and didn't brought back the third magic. Since then, Kiritsugo has returned to the Einsburn Palace in Germany once a month and remains outside the barrier for several days before returning to Japan again, as the loneliness frosts his heart that the snow of Germany could not reach. Judging by the time, he has to return to Germany again. Kiritsugo sighed before standing and carrying his bag. His life now has no meaning. It is as though he had everything but was pulled from it. Don't do this, Shinji. Kariya said while his adopted son, Shinji, had smashed new pencils. But I would love to hear the sound of their crushing, Shinji said with the eyes of a puppy. He knew that his uncle could not resist children. Don't do this face, Shinji. Otherwise, I'm not going to buy you a video game that was bothering me about it, said Kariya as he rubbed his white hair. Dealing with Sakura was relatively easy, but Shinji especially loves to break wooden things. Oh, well, Kariya Ado-san? I will try not to break them. It will be difficult, but nothing is impossible for me, Shinji said while hitting his chest. Kariya smiled nicely. He has already begun to love his new life, especially since his new family is beginning to accept him as a father-like person. Sakura still calls him uncle, but Shinji, who was shocked at first, starts calling Kariya Ado-san. Regarding the explanation given to the local authorities about the disappearance of all members of the Mata family, Kariya gave no explanation and claimed ignorance, as Victor hid all the evidence and corpses of the massacre, so that Kariya did not tell any of Sakura or Shinji what really happened here. Although he regretted that a child had to do something outrageous because of him. I love this, said Sakura quietly as she pointed to a pink pen in Shinji's hand. Shinji looked at the pen and then looked at it before looking at the pen again. Do you want it? Sakura nodded gently. Seeing this, Kariya was worried that Shinji would only smash the pen to bully Sakura. You can take it, Sakura-chan. If you want anything, you can just tell me. Kariya sighed comfortably and smiled, apparently that his worried was unnecessarily, but suddenly a sudden realization struck him. Could Shinji have a crush on Sakura? I have left the cave where I spent the last 2 months, and this cave contained the place where the Medea lived. I am currently 11 years old, and a few weeks old. It has been a year since the end of the Holy Grail War. After my little confrontation with Mephisto, yes, I still cannot believe that he is. Maybe I should have called myself Peter Parker. I prefer fighting the Green Goblin than fighting the literal devil, but what happened happened. After that, there was a sharp family debate because I killed my uncle Alexander and destroyed the magic crest. There is a saying, don't trust the devil, and of course I don't trust his gifts, even that the supposed mom wanted to call the association to report on me. Fortunately, my first uncle, Christian, was Magus very traditional and believed that what happened inside the family should remain within the family. I was not close to him before, but of course I am a little grateful to him, and after I made everyone listen to the audio recording that my father left him, they became more understanding, especially after they discovered the traces of evil spirits in the room. In the end, they decided that it would not go out to strangers, and it was decided that nothing would happen to me. However, I noticed that my relationship with the rest of the family members really decreased, regardless of my brothers and my first uncle who took the leadership of the family. In fact, I didn't really care about their low relationship with me, even though they were smiling at me before, but we all knew that these were formalities, and they didn't care about me, and this is something that is proven due to the fact that my mom wanted to inform the association I am Magus criminal, although the association itself will not care. It was a little harsh, knowing that even the person who brought you into this world, and who bore you 9 whole months, is ready to abandon you just like that. I stopped remembering for a moment, closed my eyes, and my mind came back to the time I was in the Holy Grail War. It was not good memories, but I was able to be more human than ever during this life. And I will not deny that I enjoyed the fact that I did not listen to the suffering of villagers and criminals and the war soldiers whose souls are converted to evil spirits, and all of their organs are divided in order to conduct some experiments that have a 100% failure rate, and also, to know that someone is with you because he cares about you, giving you a special feeling. I immediately removed myself from those memories. I cannot lose myself in the past now. Remember, Victor, you have to stay determined. After that, I spent my time memorizing and understanding books in my family's library in addition to books I stole from Zukenmatu. Thanks to both eidetic memory and librarian of stored knowledge and swift learner, I could save multiple folders a day. Every time I start reading, I enter into a state of constant focus where my mind processes, analyzes, and stores all the information. Given that, I suffer from a migraine at the end of every day, but the matter was entirely worth it because the magecraft was based on information and knowledge. Serious training was only a matter of perfecting the spellcasting and increasing strength. Of course, I continued to train hard and hard, until I increased the amount of training that I was putting in both my body and magecraft, and also, Zuken books are really a well of knowledge and magic. I even learned the magecraft that he was using to transmit his soul. I did not use it because I do not want to harm my soul, but I know that the technique is much lower than the Akasha serpent technique. Perhaps that is why he transformed his body into a lump of bloodworms. Regardless of this, I also started training in firearms and martial arts training. I could not learn any techniques such as breathing and walking, but by misusing my eidetic memory and my other abilities, I could learn both the Kung Fu and the Bajikuan, and I combined them with reinforcement magecraft, which provided me a super martial arts. I can now proudly say that I am a proud martial artist. By making use of my family's resources, thanks to the help of my uncle, I was able to get some information that will help me later on some of the things that I plan to acquire in the future. At least there are still some friendly people towards me. Maybe I should think about a way to get people attracted to me more, or maybe not, because I don't care about them either. I am a lone wolf. If we dispense my twin sister, and my little brother needs someone to defend him as well. The random perk that I got from my achievement, the water is thicker than blood, a perk is called unspecialized, and that gives me the ability to use any mystic code or noble phantasm as long as it does not have any requirements. For example, if I could get Avalon, then I could use it. On the other hand, I would not be able to use Caliban because it is only a worthy king that can use, and I will not be able to use a Froggerach because it requires a certain sorcery trait, and I will not be able to use the Dress of Heaven because I am a human. However, as long as I can find a noble phantasm that does not require any special conditions, I can use it, although finding the noble phantasms is a challenge on its own. After completing a review of all my books, then training my skills and practicing my magecraft, I went towards the coordinates that Medea gave me in Greece, and I discovered her place after I used the spell to locate the site that she taught me. Her house had one room with one bed, one bookshelf, and one desk. I have found many things. No matter if Medea does not like to be invited by the name of witch, she still has her own diary and books containing every spell she have already learned. On the other hand, she is not a witch. Witches are the ones who sacrifice animals and people in order to use mana instead of OD. It is a different definition from Magus that uses OD. I was happy. After all, the special type of magecraft that Medea can use could be considered at the level of true magic power, even that the teleportation is a simulation of true magic, and thanks to her books and notes I will be able to build an understanding of item construction. After all, despite her level and knowledge of skill, she is still more experienced, and who knows, may have obtained territory creation. I also got the golden fleece. I don't know why he's here. Maybe Medea got it back after killing Jason, although I remember Aphrodite wanted it, but that doesn't matter. This golden piece of wool had the ability to summon a dragon. I have to figure out how to activate it in the future. One last thing, which is the remains of Medea's skeleton. I carried it with caution and put it in my inventory, although I don't like this, but I think I will use it as a catalyst. Finally, for Mephisto, I did not hear about it or him again. Even my uncle tried to collect information about any demon around, but there was nothing. After studying both magecraft in my family library and Zuchenmata books, the most logical option for me would be to head to the clock tower, where I will be able to complete my studies in modern magecraft. I have learned a lot about both spiritual summons, necromancy, alchemy, the flow, and transfer of power. Even I have learned reincarnation, mutual perception, and the transfer of consciousness, too. I have learned many things about many different branches of thaumaturgy like runes, even that he possessed a number of ancient runes. This was not really surprising. After living for more than 500 years, it will not be strange that he gathered a large number of knowledge that is rare today. Although the magecraft of the Mata family, which is based on the breeding and use of crest worms and their evolutions, seems disgusting, I decided to learn it in the future when I find a suitable place to grow worms. Of course, I am not planning to insert them into my body or use them in an attempt to increase my prana or increase my life. Expectedly, I will not desecrate my body this way. After all, there are many uses for crest worms, especially since they have many more powerful developments. They are more like ugly and unfriendly Pokemon. And do not forget that there were many theories about thaumaturgy and the 5 elements, and with the help of both his diaries and Medea notes I possess a number of amazing ideas. However, by going to the clock tower I can learn more about magecraft and its remaining types. But before that, I took a world tour. I stayed in Greece for several days as I chased a snake magic beast that had a den in the woods. This was the piece of information that I asked my uncle to collect for me, the sites of some magical beasts around the world. I was surprised by the large number of names that he gave me them, but I absorbed something. Although they are considered a great resource for Magus, but the majority of Magus will not risk by fighting them face to face. Instead they will place a mission in the association, a mission that no one will think of accomplishing because the reward is less than chasing another person. Magical beasts were a class of all creatures that did not fit with the biological classification of ordinary beings, and they were unexplainable deviations with immature science or sudden mutations. They could be classified into 3 categories: monstrous beasts that could become phantasms beasts on the future, which in turn could become divine beasts. From the list my uncle gave me, a good number of them consisted of monstrous beasts, with a few decades-old phantasms beasts, with a few centuries as a maximum. So yes, I traveled all over the world and hunted for what appears to be 12 monsters, with about 5 phantasm beasts, so I intend to go. I went from Greece to Russia and then Morocco before I went to China. In my first hunting operation I wanted to test my abilities without using weapons or mystic eyes, and I relied mainly on martial arts and magecraft. There I discovered that although both strength, body, and agility are equal to a D-level servant, by adding all of the magic, reinforcement, and martial arts, most of magical beasts do not have any chance against me. Instead, I started letting my Giganotosaurus catch them. It was about 16 meters and more than 14,000 kilogram in mass. Its only weakness is that he is slow, with a speed of 50 kilometers per hour, which is 3 times the speed of an adult human. Fortunately, most of the beasts we encountered were stupid to think of escaping, so they die between the jaws of my dinosaur. After that I store their bodies in my inventory, as these things are very valuable. Fortunately the dinosaur is loyal for me, and as long as he remains in the state of not summoning, all his hunger, energy, and injuries will be filled, so I did not have to share any spoils, especially since I gained EXP from his own killings. Also, I gained a new title, Monster Hunter I, which later turned into Monster Hunter 2. This title gives me a 20% increase in both strength, body, and agility when fighting against monstrous beasts or phantasms or divine beasts. Because I was very young, I couldn't travel alone legally, and I didn't want to wash someone's brain to get a fake father, so I had to resort to illegal travel lines that were costing big money. Fortunately, thanks to unequal exchange, money wasn't a problem, as I could only make some valuables out of thin air when the world would never try to remove them. These things would become real. Although this ability seems broken, I hardly use it when I want a small amount of money or rare materials such as mithril. This is simply because I have no fantasy of becoming the richest boy in the world, and I don't want to give anyone else my mystic codes or noble phantasms. So for more than a year and a half after I left Medea's cave, I was illegally traveling around the world. Then I hypnotized someone to let me sleep at home for several days while I was hunting the magical beast before I went again to another country. It wasn't the best kind of life, but I really can't choose. I stood quietly in front of the closed wooden door, looking a little lower with an empty expression before I pressed the doorbell. After 3 years I finally went back to Fuyaki in Japan, and that will be the last thing I do before I go to the clock tower. Earlier today, I visited the new Korea and his 2 sons and discovered that they were doing well. However, I did not come for that. In the last half year I went to the village where the gravekeeper lived and stole the holy spear. Rongo Miniad, from Gray, no one else but Ed saw me as I steal the spear, and even then my face was hidden, so they might not recognize me. I could have stolen Ad as well, but I didn't want a mystic code that could oppose my will and my orders, and I don't think I can survive his constant insults. Therefore, now I own a noble phantasm, which is a divine structure competing and strong as or stronger than Excalibur, and also, there is no version of it in the Gate of Babylon. Fortunately, killing other servants was not the only way to acquire powerful weapons and noble phantasms, and also, because of my perk I could easily bypass 13 restrictions because they were not use restrictions, but restrictions to prevent the user from unleashing the spear full power. Also, I made a ring that prevents my magic energy from being exposed. With more than 5,000 OD, any magic compass or mana detector can pick me up from a distance. This was not a problem when I was barely near Magus, but after I decided to engage in civilization again, I cannot be the north of every magic compass. My main reason for coming back to Fuyaki is getting Avalon from Kiritsugo. I can wait for him to die, but I don't want to risk that Avalon is stolen by someone else. And also, I discovered not long ago that Kiritsugo did not find Shiro, which means that this issuance must be on the brink of madness, or it is he completely destroyed. And it is precisely for this reason that I am now facing Emiya. The door opened slowly. The person who opened it was Kiritsugo, but its condition was dire for human beings, so that it would turn thinner than it should have been. There were black bags under his eyes, and he showed symptoms of lack of sleep. Common symptoms for people who suffer from PTSD. I would dare and make sure that he suffers from severe guilt and small hallucinations. What do you want, boy? He asked me with dead eyes. I don't know if he forgot me, or he simply hides it. Maybe it is that I am very different from what I was 3 years ago. It's good to see you finally face to face, Kiritsugo Emiya. I told him with a smile. His expression turned to seriousness immediately, even his eyes showed a minimal amount of cruelty. Who are you again? Then you really don't remember me. I sighed a little. It's not that I'm sad that he didn't remember me. I think Angramenu's curse is already beginning to affect him. I am Victor Von Doom. I was involved in the Holy Grail War. Yes, you look a little different, older, he said to me while he showed no sign of panic or attack. Are you here to kill me? I don't remember that we fought against each other before. Quite the opposite, Emiya-san. I'm here to help you, I said to him calmly, and smiled honestly to him in order to create a friendly atmosphere. This is the first step to not make someone with PTSD get angry. What do you mean by that? He said skeptically. I did some research on you, and I discovered that Jubstatiat von Einsburn is preventing you from seeing your daughter. I will not tell you how I got this information, but I will tell you that I can make you see your daughter. Oh really? A slight hope appeared in Kiritsugo's eye, but it soon disappeared. And how will you do this? It's a secret. I smiled for him, but I want something from you in return. What? Avalon. I calmly told him, of course, you can give it to me after I fulfill my part of the deal. What do you think? Kiritsugo looked at me for a while in deep silence. Okay, but I need a guarantee. What? I calmly asked him, do you want to sign a geese contract? He nodded. It will be a simple contract, just to make sure you won't fool me or try to steal Avalon before you do your part of the deal, and that I won't deny my promise if you really make me see Ilya again. I looked at him before I entered his home cautiously. As long as the geese that we were going to use were not the kind that relate to the soul, I do not think I have any problem, especially since Kiritsugo will die later, and because I will make sure that there are no holes through which he can deceive me. I could simply kill him and steal Avalon, and it will be so easy now. I can just take out a gun from my inventory and give him a mercy bullet in his head. I was about to do this before I stopped myself. Kiritsugu had been killing for a long time, but his goals were noble to save the world, and also, the philosophy of sacrificing a few in order to save a lot is not entirely wrong, but it is also not right. Kiritsugu was someone who did evil things for a good goal. Well, can we start? This is really pathetic. A male thought with red skin, black hair, and white eyes, as well as pointed ears and sharp teeth with demonic properties. It has been a few years since his seal was broken and awakened from his hibernation. More specifically, it has been 6 full years. Unfortunately for him, Victor Von Doom, the child who he was planning to use his body as a vessel, managed to defeat him in his weak state by using strange mystic eyes that control the concept of death. Victor Von Doom was the ideal vessel for him, not only that he was the descendant of a long line of generations that had been subjected to his demonic magical energy, but even that he possessed a very large amount of magical energy, and his body is very strong for any child of his age, and the fact that he has eyes very rare, it only makes it more attractive. The main reason why he needed a bowl is not that he has no alternative, instead so that he can hide from the eyes of the counter force and the world, by returning to after the era of Christ when the gods still have some influence. It was he who spread chaos around the earth and tricked people into selling their souls to him. It was great times, until Alea became angry and sent a counter-guardian going in the name of Emiya in order to kill him. At that time he was stronger than the counter-guardian, but his opponent was using both strategies and tricks in order to guarantee victory. In the end it was the only solution to escape is to abandon his original body and imprison himself in the magic crest until he waits for his resurrection. When he was finally awakened, he was unlucky enough for his soul to be seriously damaged. His plan was simple, imprisoned Victor and tortured him until he gave him approval to own his body. After all, even he has weaknesses, especially after losing his grace. Instead, he was injured and forced to flee to his reality marble, hell, where he stored the souls of those who had been deceived by him, and went into hibernation for several years in order to prevent the damage from aggravating, and when he woke up he quickly treated his soul, before he do crushing hundreds of lives in the reality marble in order to provide enough mana to make a body similar to his previous body. Unfortunately, now, if he returns to the world he will be rejected by the world and his body will start to fade if he does not find a creature to work as a ship and a great source for mana. But the solution to this was simple. The problem is that human consciousness will send the counter-guardians back behind him. He can take over normal human bodies, but they will die after several days, and most humans are rubbish in potential. The only good thing is that now that his body is back, and as long as he remains inside the reality marble, he can display his true power, too, even if he cannot go out on his own. This does not mean that he cannot send another person. In front of him there were 6 cocoons, each containing a special creature. In order to make them he, the devil, crushed every soul in his own hell, and also relied on the rules the world uses and counter-force when summoning heroic spirits. Some of them have skills that even he does not possess, and some of them can display a strength that he cannot even display, and even if someone manages to kill them all by a miracle, this will call for a very powerful 7th creature. In order to ensure that they would achieve his purpose, he only had to give them a goal, free will, which was not difficult either. After all, although strength was not his good point, he could make things stronger than him. Go, my 6 sins, and please your father, Mephisto said, with demonic and malicious laughter. I was 16 years old. It has been 3 full years since I helped Kiritsugu to see his daughter, and I got Avalon, and even then, Jubstitiate von Einsburn only agreed to let Kiritsugu see me from afar once a month and not interacting with her, which Kiritsugu agreed to, seems to have been shattered after all. The method that I used is to threaten Jubstitiate that I will inform the association that the Einsburn family summoned Angra Mainyu in the Third Holy Grail War which caused its corruption. The association ignores many things, but threats from this level cannot be ignored. Realizing his position, Jubstitiate agreed to let Kiritsugu see his daughter, although I can say that he was still planning to win in the next war, and also, I was able to withdraw Avesta's book, the catalyst that was used to summon Angra Mainyu, from him, and all this to keep confidential information I did not plan to disclose. After all, the association may withdraw all the lands of the Einsburn and get an excuse to move or cancel the Holy Grail War, and this is something that Jubstitiate did not want, given that the Einsburn's only and ultimate goal is to revive the third true magic, the Heaven's Feels. After getting all of Avalon, a noble phantasm from X rank that gives eternal youth and a relatively good regenerative factor, and Avesta, the incentive that can be used to call Angra Mainyu, I settled in Fuyaki for 6 months where I read many books on modern medicine and science advanced. After that I returned to the family palace in Germany, where I clearly made clear my desire to go to the clock tower. Fortunately my family was a member of the neutral faction, so it was not very difficult to find a place for me inside the clock tower. 1 week later, I was taken from Germany to a port in Belgium in a cart pulled by 2 horses, before I board a ship heading to Britain, before I took another cart to London. In an age of technological advancement that has become commonplace for everyone to own a car, it is so embarrassing to drive a vehicle from the 18th century, that even the current carts have a better look. For a traditional magus, it would be common to spend 5 years in general studies, but I skipped over this and I registered for spiritual summoning and curses. Of course, I, Victor Von Doom the Great, was spending most of his time in the library, since in the last 2.5 years I read every page of the thousands of books in the library. Originally, my mind state is 3.1, which means that my IQ is around 300 degrees, and my eidetic memory gives me the ability to conjure up an ideal of anything I have ever seen, and Librarian of Stored Knowledge strengthens this by pushing the speed of my mental processing to the point where I can remember things I wasn't focusing on, so this wasn't difficult. I have studied all classes of magecraft, spiritual summons, metallurgy, zoology, laurel, botany, astrology, creation, curses, archaeology, modern magecraft theory, runes, alchemy, power flow, and transfer, spiritual therapy, even public and internal policies. With the help of books, I, Victor Von Doom, have a library of knowledge in my head. I even learned both thought acceleration and fragmentation of thought, which helped me a lot. With the help of Fast Learner I can now accelerate my mind by a large percentage, while I can make 6 rooms in my mind. And I use this to analyze my opponent's movements and foretell his next moves, enhance the eye of the mind, memorize and analyze the opponent's fighting style and build an effective strategy against him, before incorporating his technique into my superhuman combat technology. I also found many useful things, such as advanced concepts about the 5 elements, fire, air, water, earth, and ether, and also, many theories about sorcery traits, and although Mage Association was only specialized in magecraft, I found several books dealing with breathing and walking as a topic, and although the technique was not developed directly, with the help of my superior mental abilities I could simulate the technique effectively. Walking and breathing was a very important technique in the heritage of Oriental martial arts, as it reduces the accumulated impurities in the body, provides calmness to one's soul, and gives the user the ability to use all his energetic power effectively, and focus the body's weight and momentum in order to increase attack strength, stealth, and many other things. With the help of my magic energy concealment ring, I could hide my abilities from the association, and they know that I have 20 magic circuit with each having a capacity of 30 OD and a total of only 600 OD, and the fact that my family made sure of it makes things easier. I was not afraid, or that I wanted to be a wolf in sheep's clothes. The thing is that Mage Association kidnaps people with big talents and imprisons them because there is a possibility of becoming a threat, and because I wanted to study magecraft, I had to keep the fact that I have 5,000 units of magical power, and my other magical abilities, is completely hidden. I have also met Kenneth, or Lord Ilmeloy more specifically, and it seems you are totally fine. He did not recognize me at first, but when he did, I noticed that he was not happy even though he was greeting me with a smile, but as long as he did nothing against me, I don't care. On the other hand, it seems that Waver Velvet has become an aid to him. New main mission, the unholy sins of humankind. Description: in order to spread ruin and sin among humankind, Satan Mephisto created 6 powerful creatures to do work for him. Subject: hunt and kill each one of them. Goal 1, kill Wrath in the African desert. Goal 2, kill Sloth in Greece. Goal 3, kill the Lust in France. Goal 4, kill Greed in America. Goal 5, kill Gluttony in London. Goal 6, kill Envy in America. Reward: 20.000.000. Punishment: the end of human era, the beginning of demons era. I think I have to graduate. I was currently in my workshop that was presented to me by the association. Only a basic workshop is offered to most of the students who pay enough money for this. Students are given a certain level of confidentiality, at least not monitored. Since gluttony is my closest sin, I must catch him first, although I am surprised why there are only 6 sins instead of 7, but this does not mean that I complain. In any case, earlier in the day, I requested leave for an unlimited time from the clock tower, and I also applied for a pre-graduation request. I have been a student for only 2 years and barely offered above average results, and they will most likely think that I am tired or injured bored just before agreeing. Not as if they care anyway. After all, I'm just a person with above average capabilities. The only notable thing is the dynamic circuit configuration that gives me more effectiveness in regenerating the OD. There is one more thing. In the past few months, I made a black grail of the grail pieces that I collected at the end of the 4th Holy Grail War, and I also made a similar armor to Victor Von Doom's armor from storyboards. I wanted to give him a great name, but I ended up calling it a Doom armor only. The Black Grail does not have any uses currently, but it can still be used to convert ordinary servers into their altar form, or by making new command seals, and it can be used as a lower or lesser Grail to call the Greater Grail, and also, it can be used to output Angra which is in the process of switching to the Demon in the Holy Grail, all thanks to the fact that the Grail is connected to Angra. As for the Doom armor, I made it similar to the original Marvel armor, entirely from mithril, with a high-quality jewel in the middle of the chest in which the energy stored can be used to attack or defend, and I have added many magical improvements, such as an enhancement of durability, strength, and agility, and reduce weight for the wearer, and the armor can repair itself and amplify the magical attacks of the wearer. Not only this, but I put on it Medea's special reinforcement magecraft, which doubles the wearer's physical strength 5 times as long as there is remaining energy in the jewel, and when worn from magical and physical resistance of 1 rank, the armor can completely hide the wearer mana as long as he is not in a combat position. And I added to him several runes, such as Ewes that increase the hardness of the shield, and Kanas that increases the wearer's visibility, runes that increase speed, in addition to tracking runes and Saulo and Ansas in order to add immediate fire attacks, and runes to absorb mana from the air. Most of these are ancient runes similar to those used by Cu Colane and Scathatch. Unfortunately, I have very little knowledge of ancient runes. Not only that, the armor itself is self-contained, and as long as the jewel is in the center of the chest, even if the rest of the shield is destroyed, it will be repaired over time, and I can also mentally control it from a distance. So in fact, I built a war machine, and as long as enemy did not know the armor's weak point, so he will wait for it either a painful defeat, or death. I have opened my case. Name, Victor Von Doom. Level, 72. Title, Survivor, Monster Hunter 2. Strength, 31.2. Body, 28.5. Agility, 28.9. Mind, 3.1. Spirit, 25.4. Statistics points, 91. Number of circuits, 20. Circuit quality, A+++. Capacity, 20x 250 equals 5000. Composition, dynamic. Origin, determination. Elements, fire, ether, time, space. Sorcery trait, none. Skills, observation, magecraft A+, rapid reflexes A, mystic eyes of death perception A, psychology A, marksmanship A, present concealment A+, librarian of stored knowledge C, magic resistance B, eye of the mind, true, eternal arms mastership A+, protection of the fairies A, high-speed divine words A, item construction A, territory creation B+, high-speed incantation A, clairvoyant C. Perks, eidetic memory, fourth wall, gamer's luck, mental interference, fast learner, infinite potential, the unequal exchange, anabolic resistance, unspecialized. NP, Kazikli Bey, B, Zabaniya, delusional illusion, B+, Gibadhi, B, Knight of Owner, A++, rule breaker, C, the Dark Grail, Rongominiad, X, Avalon, X. Compared to the end of the Holy Grail War, I was currently much stronger, although my physical statistics are barely in the C rank, but this is without relying on reinforcement magecraft or my armor or combat method that integrates opponents' strengths into my style and using their weaknesses against them, and this, of course, without counting all my other skills that passively enhance my physical and mental attributes, and all my magecraft spells. My magecraft was in the A+ rank. The skill counted my prowess and my strength in using modern magecraft and not the number of spells or knowledge that I collected, so in fact the power of my magecraft is equal to the true magic, and this is without counting that I have magecraft from the Age of the Gods that I got from media, who in turn is as powerful as the true magic, while rapid reflexes of class A enhance my reactions, and at my current level I can enter into a prolonged state of slowing down time. The marksmanship represents my versatility in using firearms like pistols and rifles, while high-speed divine words and high-speed incantation give me the ability to throw most spells by saying a single quick word. Territory creation and item construction give me the ability to make mystic codes and the ability to use an area for me, such as how Medea converts the Ryuda temple to her own area to absorb mana from the ley lines. While clairvoyant is the skill that I acquired by practicing archery, at its current level I can hit a target 4 kilometers away. At the age of only 16, but I am already one of the most powerful creatures in the world. Perhaps the people who can compete with me are the gods, the true magicians only, and maybe some aliens and ultimate ones, and even at that time I can use my noble phantasms to gain the upper hand. However, Victor, you should not be arrogant and lazy. Remember, you must stay determined, and always move forward without looking back. Now, increasing my physical attributes does not make sense for them because I can increase them through training, and I can also display a higher physical strength than what my statistics show, while I will not increase my mind because the speed of processing my natural mind gives me superior intelligence, without counting the fragmentation of thought and the acceleration of thought, leaving me with one option, spirit. I initially thought her job was to increase the quality of the circuits and increase my talent, but in reality, even Tuko Ozaki, who also has 20 circles with quality X ranks, barely has about 2,000, while I own 5,000 with lower quality. But now I'm sure it strengthens the soul itself. For example, human souls are weaker than heroic spirit, and they all go to the root after death, while evil spirits and ghosts are copies made of ether and magical energy for some reason after a person's death. Of course, a person's soul can be stored in magical ways, but it will either turn into an evil spirit as well or slowly fade to the root. Of course there are safer ways like how Ereshkigal stores souls in the underworld. When I raise my statistic of my soul, all aspects of my soul will be increased, including its strength and intensity in addition to my magic talent and the quality of my circuits, and it gives me an amount of OD greater than I should have because my soul is very strong. At my current level at 25 points, maybe my soul is stronger than most heroic spirits. I added all of my points immediately in the spirit, since it is the only logical choice, and it is also the only statistic that I cannot increase by training regardless of the mind. Name, Victor Von Doom. Level, 72. Title, Survivor, Monster Hunter 2. Strength, 31.2. Body, 28.5. Agility, 28.9. Mind, 3.1. Spirit, 116.4. Statistics points, 0. Number of circuits, 20. Circuit quality, X. Capacity, 20x 11,640 equals 232.800. Composition, dynamic. Origin, determination. Elements, fire, ether, time, space. Sorcery trait, none. Skills, observation, magecraft A+, rapid reflexes A, mystic eyes of death perception A, psychology A, marksmanship A, present concealment A+, librarian of stored knowledge C, magic resistance B, eye of the mind, true, eternal arms mastership A+, protection of the fairies A, high-speed divine words A, item construction A, territory creation B+, high-speed incantation A, clairvoyant C. Perks, eidetic memory, fourth wall, gamer's luck, mental interference, fast learner, infinite potential, the unequal exchange, anabolic resistance, unspecialized. NP, Kazikli Bey, B, Zabaniya, delusional illusion, B+, Gibadhi, B, Knight of Owner, A++, rule breaker, C, the Dark Grail, Rongominiad, X, Avalon, X, dot. When I put them fully, I felt the sharp pain coming from every magic circuit in my body, and I also felt as though my soul had been fully opened, but this feeling only lasted for a moment before it disappeared. I stood shookly. I was feeling now, like I was swimming in the water. I moved my hands in front of me and felt that the world's mana was attracted to me automatically, as if I could manipulate it, but I did not realize until only a few seconds before this feeling disappeared. This amount of magical energy. Fortunately my ring shows that I only have 600 units. And, I will use a shapeshift spell on me until I finish this mission. I don't want anyone to actually know me. Are you sure he is in here? It seems empty. I directed my question to the book that I held in my hand, and I checked that I was going to press it a little. Mouth opened in the book's cover disgustingly, and a long tongue came out of it. The mouth spoke in a very rough and sharp way. PT of course. IL1T, lie to you, we made a deal. This book in my hand was one of the sins I had to kill. Gluttony, the sin that I had to kill in London. The prediction was not one of my strong points, so even when I performed rituals to predict the place of gluttony, it was revealed that it is in a library only, so I had to search all the libraries in London. In the end, when I found him, it seemed that he was not really a combat type, as he was looking for a suitable host. His capabilities were simple because he can link himself to someone, then the host must feed him the books and in return the host will get knowledge from the books that feed to him. He can also eat things like mystic codes to restore the magic power of the host. He has some sort of tools evaluation capabilities, he can act as a personal assistant, and he also has storage space inside it. I didn't care about this and I was going to kill him anyway before he suggested me to make a deal. He has told me something about that when all 6 sins die, the greatest sin, pride, will be born, and that he will help me know the exact location of the other sins as long as I do not kill him, and in the end, pride will not be born because he will not die. Of course I had to provide him with magical energy in order to not sleep, and I did not want to associate myself with a parasite so I had to let him eat a jewel full of magical energy once a day. He told me that every sin has a different goal they possessed from birth. For him his goal was to gather all magic knowledge, and for lust it was intended to make the largest number of slaves and followers, and wrath aimed to spread the greatest amount of destruction, and the goal of sloth is eating the largest number of people. The aim of greed is to become the ideal being, while the goal of envy is to include the largest killing of people to it. Aside from this, there seems to be a link between them that they can use to know each other's locations. And with this, every one of them possesses abilities that help him in that. When I heard this, I immediately knew what they were really doing. Anger, sloth, and envy were spreading fear and attacking humanity directly, while gluttony, who was not a fighter, would gather magic knowledge for them. As lust brings followers and servants for them, greed will be their general. Also, they are made in a similar way to servants, so they follow the statistics and skill system and noble phantasms. They were the kind of enemies that should be killed early, so I agreed not to kill gluttony, temporarily, and I decided that the first person I would hunt is anger, because it is more like a berserker, so leaving him around is not a wise choice and will only kill more innocent people. Therefore, under the direction of gluttony, I went to Mauritania. More specifically, it seems that Wrath in the capital of the state of Tikent, Tijikjia. When I came here, it's hard to believe that it has been 5 days since they were born. No, this city that was supposed to have at least nearly 19,000 percentages, has been completely destroyed. Maybe everyone is dead, since there is a blood smell in the air. Do you see now? So how can we be scary? Gluttony said in a weird way. Did the local authorities really not interfere? I asked him while I ignored his question. I am sure they did, and I am sure they are dead, he said to me, almost humanly, without any distraction. He must be as strong as Hercules at least, Elle said randomly. So where is he? No, he must have sensed me. He's here, see, he will be close, he said before he jumped out of my hand and 6 spider legs came out of his side. I'm going to run from here. I don't want to die in your fight. I left him running away now, and earlier I put a spell on him, so I can find him wherever he goes. On the other hand, I have a bigger problem to deal with. I jumped from my parking spot because my mind had warned me, in the place of my previous parking place a big creature fell so hard, maybe he wanted to crush me. He had a body similar to humans, he did not wear any clothes, but he did not have any genitals either. His skin was black, and while the upper half of his body looked relatively human, but his legs and feet looked as if they belonged to a lizard of some kind while there are scales on his shoulders. Wrath was breathing so much that there was black smoke coming out of his mouth. I don't know why, but he seemed a little shocked when he saw me, but soon the black smoke started coming out of his body. A human being. Being killed, being killed. He immediately rushed towards me. Luckily I activated both thought cleavage and thought acceleration, and with the help of the eye of the mind, true, I could have avoided it. His speed was at least C, similar to me. I immediately turned around and fired a few Gandra shots at breakneck speed, nearly 40 rounds in 1 second, but I noticed that apart from a few scratches, he wasn't hurt much. I was not very surprised. Gandra was a very simple attack, and although I can show great power by using it, it will be disappointing that I can defeat one of the 7 deadly sins so easily. He held the tip of a nearby house and threw it towards me, but I dodged it by jumping over it and then using it as a ground to jump towards Wrath. I reinforced my entire body by reinforcement magecraft and tried as I kicked Wrath in his chest. Luckily he didn't try to avoid my attack. My reinforcement magecraft has reached a point that enhances my physical characteristics 200% stronger, so I could gain the upper hand against it, even though it has mad enhancement. He retreated several meters back and seemed to be a little bit agitated, but soon he shouted angrily and the smoke around him began to intensify and turn red. But the biggest change is the growth of the wings of a dragon behind his back and the horns of a dragon above his head. He must possess the characteristics of a dragon, or perhaps this is one of his abilities. If it is like this, then his fight will be really annoying. I expected that he would physically attack me again, but before he took his step, I threw an Argos wall in front of me, and at the next moment he opened his mouth and released a breath of flamingo. Fortunately my magecraft is as strong as true magic, otherwise the flame will be fatal to me because it mostly has a diabolical trait. When the same flame ended, I retreated. If he really turned into a dragon of some kind, perhaps he got a boost in magic resistance, which means that apart from strengthening my body and defense, magic attacks have become almost useless. Just almost, not for me, but for a normal magus. I touched the ground with my hands and my prana passed directly to the ground below Wrath, and I used to convert the material to convert the earth into moving sand before controlling it and wrapping it around Wrath, but before I could make it hard again, Wrath used his wings to fly and escape. I looked at him for a second, but I noticed that he started to turn again. His horn became bigger and a new pair of smaller horns grew, while his body swelled a little and his hands became more similar to the hands of lizards, so that his head became like a dragon. Now while he's flying, he has an air advantage. He started releasing mana bundles from his mouth while I was running to avoid it. After several seconds when I saw that he was not planning to stop, I stopped avoiding his attacks and pointed my hand towards him. Hakashia burst. This was a version I improved from Rain of Light, Makia Hakashia Greya. Many magic circles appeared behind me and began to launch quick bundles of light, each shot containing a force equivalent to 3000 prana unit, which makes my attack stronger than Medea's attack several times, and even if the anger is a dragon he will still be affected by this. As expected, the anger responded to the attacks with his own body, and after about 30 minutes he could not stand it and fell. I stopped launching Hakashia Burst and dodged the anger that rushed on me with his entire body. When I dodged he did not stop and several home remnants were destroyed. Fortunately the city was already destroyed or only thousands of people would die because of us. When he stopped, he turned around and rushed again. I took out the Gibadhi and used the Knight of Honor to strengthen it a little bit, and when he arrived next to me I tried to stab him, but the spear couldn't penetrate his skin. Luckily I was using the Eye of the Mind. I could find out the best way to avoid his attack. He must have the skill that made the low-ranking Phantasm Noble useless against him, but I do have the upper hand here, because he couldn't touch me even once, while I haven't used my full strength yet. He began to turn again. His volume increased dramatically as his wings grew larger, a tail grew behind his back while there was a white glow in the middle of his chest. I saw him now, it seems to be a real dragon. Asterisk roar asterisk roar asterisk, he shouted very loudly, and his screams seemed to be echoing around. I frowned. It does not seem that he turned into a dragon while he was destroying the city. The reason for his great hostility towards me must be the reason for the gluttony to know my identity. My old friend Mephisto does not stop surprising me, and now I am fighting a dragon that is 20 meters high and at least 25 length. I decided I would finish this. My magic circles started spinning so fast that there was a sharp beeping sound in the air, while an aura of magical energy appeared around me, and electricity began to appear on my body. Reinforcement magecraft that I was using previously was working by planting prana in my muscles and bones in order to strengthen them, but currently I am using a stronger version. By making my circles rotate at full speed and expelling prana from my body, I can enhance my body and create momentum strength great and somewhat resistant to the laws of physics. It was not something that I invented, it was theoretically possible before, but it requires a person to possess a crazy amount of prana, which is what I possess, and he possesses a very strong body, which is what I possess, and even then the body will be damaged a little, but I have Avalon for that. It is the time of your death, but you can know this, your death is for the greater good. I told him without attention if he could understand me. I stretched my hands in front of me and the holy spear appeared. I said before I quickly throw him toward the neck of anger. Show me my way, Rongominiad. I have not used it now as a noble phantasm, instead it has been as a regular spear. However, the holy spear can still cross the distance with tremendous speed and kill Wrath by penetrating his neck. You killed one of the sins, Wrath. You gained 3,500,000 EXP. You have reached level 73. You have reached level 74. You have reached level 75. Total statistical points, 6. You killed a dragon-type beast, you got Dragon Slayer C. Monster Hunter 2 has advanced to Monster Hunter 3. You killed one of the sins, Wrath. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Mad Enhancement, A. Magic Resistance, A. Self-Replenishment, Mana, B+. Instinct, C. Noble Phantasm. Metal Dragon Force, B. Demonic Dragon Rage, B. I looked at the skill list, but I temporarily ignored them and used observation on the noble phantasms. Metal Dragon Force, B. Negative power conferring immunity against noble phantasms of a rank less than B. Therefore it is a weaker version of Hercules' God Hand, because even Class B is not affected to Hercules. Demonic Dragon Rage, B. The ability to gradually transform into a dragon-type phantasm species. Upon completion of the transformation acquires all the attributes of a normal dragon, but the transformation is irreversible, requiring the skill of Mad Enhancement. Yes, no thanks, I do not want to lose my mind, although I am not a knight, but I am sure that the fact that a person is a berserker sucks really hard. I looked at the skills again. Mad Enhancement was not an option, while magic resistance is stronger than mine, but when I wear my armor my magic resistance becomes stronger. 2. I can still hurt him because I am very strong for Magus, so I chose self-replenishment, mana, and instinct. Unfortunately the skills of the dragon were not shown to me to choose between them. The dragon breath looked very cool. As for Noble Phantasm, I penetrated the Metal Dragon Force, because it is really good, and because I cannot choose another one because I don't want to become a berserker or a dragon. I returned Rongominiad to my inventory, and noticed that the dragon's body had not disappeared. I wanted to search for gluttony, but now I will collect all of the flesh, blood, bones and skin of this dragon.
Hello, everyone! As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.